And a good morning. I'm Ken Squire at one of the most treasured spots in all of sports, where for the past 36 years, I've had the opportunity to be part of a broadcast team for the Daytona 500. From the beaches to this modern superspeedway, there have been many changes, but this year marks a special change. Fox Sports is proud to become the official broadcaster from Daytona. With respect for those who did so well in the past with this event, Fox looks forward to the opportunity to take televised motorsports to the next level. Get ready. The new era starts right now for the great American race.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome to your new home for NASCAR. Fox Racing has arrived. You're looking at the historic Daytona International Speedway as the drivers and crews are getting ready, and from Fireball Roberts to Richard Petty to Jeff Gordon, the very best have raced here. The haulers, the Winston Cup haulers, rolling in yesterday at sunrise, eager to go, ready to work. The very best have raced and won here. Now Fox joins NASCAR's long and legendary history. February in Florida means racing. It all starts today with the first day of Winston Cup practice as we gear up for the Daytona 500 on Fox. And it's a busy weekend here. This is what we have in store for you. You'll want to tune in. Your one-stop place for racing is Fox, FX, and Fox Sports Net. Tomorrow, the Winston Cup practice rounds begin at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on Fox Sports Net. And then the Daytona 500 pole qualifying at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific. And then the Goodies Dash 200 on FX at 4:30 Eastern. It's all live. And then on Sunday, wall-to-wall coverage. NASCAR this morning starts things off at 10 Eastern, followed by the Budweiser Shootout. And, of course, former pole winners are in with pole winners of last year. That's 2 o'clock Eastern. You'll see that live on Fox in the NASCAR Victory Lane with the wrap-up as people are getting ready to go and optimism running high. Hi, I'm Chris Myers, coming to you live from just above Victory Lane here at Daytona, and all of us at Fox are proud and excited to be a part of history as we present NASCAR racing like you've never seen or heard before. This is the place for your one-stop racing needs, from inside the car to the back of the garage, down on pit road, or at the finish line. You'll get live racing every weekend, 21 consecutive weeks for the first half of the NASCAR season right here on Fox, Fox Sports Net, and FX. And this week we'll bring you 43 hours of coverage, including the 43rd running of the great American race, the Daytona 500. And the man who will call that race, a veteran of 25 Daytona 500s, joining us now from the broadcast booth, Mike Joy, the voice of NASCAR on Fox, has his own driver and crew chief with him. Mike?
Thank you, Chris, and welcome back to Daytona, everyone. I'm laughing because I've got a new driver and a new crew chief, and I've had to force him to turn around here and talk to you because I've already been clocking laps. Darrell Waltrip, welcome to Fox. We're ready to go.
Yeah, we are ready to rock and roll. You know, the thing about it is I'm a driver, and I know what these drivers are going through. They are listening to this guy, and he's saying, don't worry, man, we're going to be really good. We've got 15 more horsepower than we tested with. We've been back to the wind tunnel. We've slicked that baby up a little bit, and she's ready to go, and you're going to be super fast. And I'm getting there, putting my helmet on, saying, is he telling me the truth, or is he pulling my leg?
You know I wouldn't tell you a lie.
Now, Larry McReynolds is a two-time Daytona 500 winning crew chief, and we're so happy to have you up here in the broadcast booth now full-time to lend us your expertise.
Well, I've been in the garage for 20 years, and hopefully over these next 21 weeks, things that I can do with the help of a lot of others is explain things to the race fan. You know, maybe explain what that crew chief's thinking, why he's doing what he's doing, why he's telling that driver what he's telling him, and that's what our plan is to tell the stories and take you guys places maybe where you've never been before, and mainly talk about the race.
We're going to have some fun. That's first and foremost on the agenda. Let's go back down high above Victory Lane and Chris Myers.
All right, thanks. Yeah, but thanks, Mike. Good luck getting a word in with Darrell and Larry throughout the season. They're just part of our team here on Fox. Let's go down now to where the rubber meets the road, the eyes and ears of what's going on behind the scenes. We'll join Dick Bergman from Speedway Illustrated magazine. He heads up our reporters on pit road. Good morning, Dick.
Good morning, Chris, and thank you very much. We're going to start out where the 2000 season left off with the defending series champion, Bobby Labonte. Now, Bobby's never won the Daytona 500, but he's come close. In 1998, he won the pole for this race and finished second in the event as well. He returns this year with his crew intact, and that's very unusual for a championship team. Ordinarily, crew members are rated, but the guys who went over the wall last year are all back again this year. That's a tribute to Jimmy Bakar, the crew chief, considered by many to be one of the most cunning, smart, and coolest crew chiefs of all time. The car that Labonte will race got right through inspection with very little trouble. They had to do a little bit of work on what's called the A post, but that was it, unlike many of the other teams here. Talk to the guys in the garage, and they'll tell you that Labonte is a threat to not only win this Daytona 500, but also the Winston Cup Championship, as is his teammate, Tony Stewart. Next, let's go to the host of the new Fox Sports Net nightly racing show, Totally NASCAR, Steve Burns.
Hey, thank you, Dick. On October 14th, 1999, Dodge announced they would return to NASCAR racing after a 15-year absence. Today, after 500 days of preparation and over 1 million hours of research and labor, 10 drivers will bring Dodge back to the front page of motorsports. And can there be a more compelling story than Petty Enterprises? Richard Petty won 37 races and 3 championships in a Dodge Charger. His son Kyle won his very first stock car race in a Dodge here in Daytona 22 years ago. Kyle committed to Dodge in hopes of rekindling that Petty magic. His son Adam, a fourth-generation racer, was to be the future. But Adam was killed last May in a race car. Kyle Petty is the present and the future as Dodge returns to racing. Let's go now to one of our other partners here on pit road in the garage, Matt Yocum. All right, we're having problems with Matt Yocum's gear, but never fear, Matt will be back. Let's go to Jeannie Zelasco, also roving around in the garage. Jeannie?
Yeah, you got it. And I'm looking for the future, and the future of NASCAR is right now for Kurt Busch. The 22-year-old went from relative obscurity to a truck ride to a Winston Cup ride seemingly overnight, but make no mistake, people were watching. People like Jack Roush, who brought the rookie on board. Now, he does not have a sponsor as of late, but he has a whole lot of support and 7 Winston Cup starts underneath his belt. He said it actually gave him a little taste, a little preview of what's to come, but come on, let's be honest. How can you truly prepare yourself for your first official practice run at the Daytona 500 in your first full-time ride? I actually talked to Kurt before he made his way out onto the track, and I said, are you ready to make your way out onto the track? Little sweat on his brow, big smile on his face. He told me, oh yeah, Chris, and he should be fun to watch.
All right, yeah, thanks, Judy. 13th is the best finish in 7 races, as you mentioned, Winston Cup races. All right, we want to also mention, joining us here on the set is our former crew chief, Jeff Hammond, who was a part of 6 different Winston Cup championships, won the Daytona 500 with Darrell Waltrip as his driver. Jeff is going to be a part of our pre-race show throughout the NASCAR season here on Fox. Jeff, you traded in your crew chief headset for a microphone, so what should we be looking for? What do you expect from this NASCAR season?
Well, Chris, thank you. And first and foremost, I want to tell you how excited I am to be a part of the Fox team. I mean, to get a chance to work with yourself and being back with Darrell and, you know, Larry and Mike, I'm just so excited about that. This year, I'm telling you, fans, it is going to be one exciting season. I'm looking at all these young rookies that are coming out. We're talking about Kurt Busch, you know, Jason Leffler. But look at the sophomore class, Matt Kenseth, Dale Earnhardt Jr. They're going to be pushing these veterans like Earnhardt, Gordon, Rusty Wallace. I'm telling you right now, it is going to be probably the most exciting season I've been a part of. And I've been around a long time also, you know, 25+ years. So we're going to be looking at probably one of the most exciting seasons we ever get an opportunity to see, not to mention the return of Dodge. So we got a lot of great stories coming our way, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
A number of storylines with the young drivers. Can Bobby Labonte repeat it? Here's a guy who I don't know if he's totally left the crew chief role. He carries his own restrictor plate, which you can explain to me a little bit later. I want to know all the ins and outs. But today, it's the first day of practice, Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500. So you're a guy who did this for a living here. What are people looking for? What should we expect?
Chris, this day is, excuse the pun you might say, today is the D-Day for these teams. They've come down here, and today and tomorrow they're going to be trying to establish a beachhead. I mean, they're going to be working toward their final and ultimate goal, which is the assault on what's behind us here, Victory Lane. I mean, it's going to be a tough battle, but believe me, the war's already begun. The cars are on the track, and the guys are trying to figure out what they're going to have to do to fix the problem of going faster. Everybody wants to go faster, and they're not satisfied. If they're at the top of the leaderboard, they want to stay there. If they're down, they want to get there.
All right, throughout the day, we'll break that down, see how realistic those speeds are and how they'll help get us ready for the season and, of course, for the Daytona 500. Look forward to working with you, Jeff, the entire pit road crew. Now let's go back up to our play-by-play team, the voices of NASCAR on Fox. Mike Joy, what are you and Larry and Darrell expecting from today's practice rounds here at Daytona?
Well, first, Chris, with the sun at our back, I'm happy I'm not home in New England where there's 22 inches of snow. But if spring ever gets there, it always brings with it a rebirth and a freshness to the new season. Same is true here, but the difference here is there's also an apprehension with the start of a new season, and these cars are for the first time on the track in full battle dress. So driver and crew chief, what are our goals and what are our fears for today?
The most exciting time, the happiest a driver and crew chief and owner and sponsor is just before you take the track for the first time to start a new year. Oh, you love your car. It's beautiful. That thing is got a new paint job. Look at them new uniforms. Man, that's the best looking uniform I ever saw. Got new helmets. Got everything new. Everything's brand new. And 43 guys, well, 52 guys here before qualifying, think they're going to win the Daytona 500. Optimism's high. Everybody's excited. Oh, I love you, Larry. I love you, Larry. And then maybe an hour later, it won't be that way.
No, I'm going to say chaos pretty much broke out about 15 minutes ago when they said the track is open for practice.
Yep.
But, you know, these teams, they started working on Daytona probably 6 or 7 months ago. Time in the wind tunnel, down here testing, Talladega testing, engine dynos running all night long. You almost got what you got when you get down here today. You can do a little bit of fine-tuning, give the engine guy, even though they got practice motors in, they won't put those qualifiers in the morning. They can do a little bit of tuning, a little bit of gear, a little bit of front shocks and springs, but not a whole lot you can do once you've been working on it 6 months in the next 24 hours.
No, what you want to be able to do at the end of this day is leave here fairly confident that you're going to qualify well, that your car is about where you tested. One of the things you always worry about is when you come and test, you come back and you got to go through the war room over there, the room of doom. You want to be sure you get back out on the track and the car's at least close to what you tested. That's a big confidence builder for everybody. So that's one of the things that you worry about first thing out is, man, we tested so good, can we back that up? And, of course, like I said, then there's that routine about don't worry, we're going to be great that the crew chiefs lay on you. And, by the way, I know what Hammond wants to do with that restrictor plate. Same thing we all want to do with it.
Open it up.
Beat the fire out of it.
When we come back, we'll meet the rest of our team. We'll tell you about the room of doom and the pile of denial that sits outside.
That's right.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox Sports Net, live from Daytona.
Welcome back live at Daytona, first day of Winston Cup practice time as they prepare to qualify. Of course, you'll see the Daytona 500 a week from Sunday. The Budweiser Shootout this Sunday on Fox. We have continuous coverage of the practice right here on Fox Sports Net as the practice runs have already begun. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, our Fox Racing play-by-play team. We go back up to the broadcast booth and rejoin Mike Joy. Mike?
The cars have been out making just single car runs, one car on the track at a time as you look at Dale Earnhardt's number 3 Chevrolet. So you won't see any drafting at this juncture. There's Todd Bodine and his new ride. Darrell, that call look familiar?
Yeah, it does. They've changed it up a little bit. Got some red letters and stuff on it, but it's still the Kmart car. And, you know, that's the one I drove, and I got the clock on him right now. I'm going to see how the young man's doing. Well, maybe I won't. But there's a lot of new paint jobs, a lot of new paint schemes that we're going to have to familiarize ourselves with. And, you know, Larry, this always aggravated me right here. Here we are trying to practice. This is an open practice. This is not line up and see how your car is going to run. And
well, it's a gentleman's agreement, though, Darrell. You know, you got
wait,
4 hours of practice.
There ain't, how many gentlemen you think are in this crowd anyway?
Well, when it comes to the end of this 4 hours, not very many.
Not
They'll
very
be driving by each other. But the thing about it, you're trying to see how fast you can run for qualifying. And my theory is if you can see a car, he's helping you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can only get about 3 cars out there at a time and get a good feel. But again, we look back at pit road here about 3 o'clock this afternoon. There'll be 27 cars out there drafting.
Yeah, there will. And you're right. With the aero package that they have now, I mean, a car at the end of the back straightaway and a car coming off of turn 2 will help that car going down the back.
So cars are on the track. There's Jeff Gordon.
I got his flames on that bad boy. Woo-hoo.
New paint scheme. That means all new souvenirs for his fans.
It's a hot rod.
Let's go down to the garage area. Matt Yoakum.
Well, Mike, Dale Earnhardt is the winningest driver in Daytona International Speedway history. He was the last car to leave the garage to go out for morning practice. He is making what he hopes to be his 2nd Daytona 500 victory charge this week here in Speed Weeks, which is his 23rd Speed Weeks here in Daytona. He is the most prolific restrictor plate driver in NASCAR history. 11 wins and 52 starts. Now, many people figured he'd bring that potent Talladega winner from last fall to Daytona. That's actually the team's 3rd backup car in a trailer out in the infield. He's racing a brand new mount, one with some questions. It was the 33rd fastest car during winter testing. Stacking the odds even greater against Earnhardt picking up that win here in Daytona. There have been 4 straight different restrictor plate winners. He hopes to break that streak later this week. Now to Dick Berggren.
Thanks, Matt. 2-time Daytona 500 winner Sterling Marlin is the first of the drivers to have run laps here and then come into the garage. He did so at a hurried pace. Chip Ganassi is the car owner for this team. Right now, mechanics are underneath the rear end of the car changing gears. What is going on?
We just, we got going real good at Talladega, and we just left the gear we had at Talladega in and need a little more gear. Start turning up RPMs and just get her adjusted up here and get her going. We run faster off the truck here. We did all-time testing in Daytona, and you know, the guys went back and built this car, built 2 cars in 5.5 days, and went to Talladega and really helped out. So looking forward to it.
What's the track like right now?
Same old Daytona. I mean, you know, the wind's blowing down the back straightaway and tailwind down the front, and same Daytona.
He loves this place. Let's go to Jeannie.
Well, Dick, it is not the same old Daytona for the young man with me right now, Kurt Busch. Take me through the few moments there when you went out onto the track and realized where you were, your first full-time Winston Cup ride.
It's always exciting to make that first lap and get practice underway. It's always just a development stage all through winter, and here in Daytona with testing in January, and now here we are finally getting to throw our numbers out on the track.
And how did the car feel?
It was a little stable, and that means we're slow. So we need to get up to speed and develop some more things into our system by the end of the day today so we can pick up some speed.
A little too early to be talking Rookie of the Year, but have fun out there. Mike, back to you.
Thanks, Jeannie. That young man has a lot of poise. That's why Jack Roush picked him over a number of established veterans, because he reads a new racetrack better than any driver Jack had seen in some time.
Well, I tell you, I watched the truck race here last year, and we need to watch him because he was exciting in that truck race. I think he had like 4 hits that day, and one of them was his teammate.
Yeah, right. There's a Winston Cup champion and Daytona 500 champ being rolled back into the garage area for adjustments. The new colors for the Robert Yates 88 of Dale Jarrett.
This is actually the car that Dale set on the pole with here in July, because he won the 500, but we got to remember, when you win the 500, you lose your race car. It's sitting over in Daytona, USA for the fans to see.
I'm glad those guys in the suits didn't make him race the truck.
I am too. And I tell you something, that brown paint on that car, I know where he got it. My first Mercury back in 1972 was brown just like that.
Here's a sight we've not seen since 1983. Rick Baldwin was the last Winston Cup driver to compete in the 500 in a Dodge. And here's the first of the Dodge Intrepids we'll have a look at.
Saw just a little bit of smoke coming out the back. I think probably that was actually water. Again, they tape the front ends up of these things as much as they can. The more tape you can put on them, the faster they'll run down the straightaway, but they tend to get a little bit warm.
Yeah, you see that thing, though, it's kind of bobbling a little bit. It's bopping up and down like a fishing bob. That's because she's getting a really rough ride, but that's also when they go fast, so we'll see how he does.
Busch Series graduate and Winston Cup rookie Casey Atwood from Nashville.
All you ever hear when the car's doing all this bouncing around and everything they do for qualifying is all you got to do it is for 50 seconds, and if you do it good today, you don't have to do it tomorrow.
Well, here's a surprise, stopwatchers. Top 10 times of the first few minutes of this practice session, and Robbie Gordon in the Morgan McClure, number 4, tops the list. Ward Burton in a Dodge. Johnny Benson, Rusty Wallace, and Tony Stewart. Hey, there's Brett Bodine. Fella didn't have a lot of success last year, but he's up in the top 10 with Jeff Gordon, Al Waltrip, Jerry Nadeau, and Bobby Labonte.
You know, I was talking to Brett Bodine. He has Steve Allen's, Yates boater deal this year. He tested really well, and as a matter of fact, he said that Robert called them after they tested and said, "You're 4/10 quicker than we are. What did you do, and how did you do it?" So that car's obviously going to be running pretty well.
I think so. Work continues in the garage area. That's Andy Houston's mount being worked on, and that of Rusty Wallace. Winston Cup practice, Open Speed Week here in Daytona. We'll be right back with you live on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway and the opening round of Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500. Rusty Wallace consulting with his crew. Tire sheet?
No, he's looking at it saying, I bought 50 shares yesterday, and look what they've already done.
That is his tire guy he's looking at, and probably looking at the tire temperature stopped out on pit road.
There's Mark over his shoulder.
You can tell a lot about the balance of your car looking at what the temperatures across the tire is and what the front and rear balance is. Probably looking at pressure buildup. Yeah. But again, I'm a firm believer here today. It don't matter what the tire temperatures or pressure buildups. It's what that stopwatch says.
Oh yeah, it's all about being fast, and fast. Normally fast isn't that comfortable here for qualifying.
Junie Donlevy from Richmond, Virginia has always had a strong car for Daytona. This year, Hut Strickland is his driver. Hut drove a few races for Junie last season, and there was quite a list of names to go in that car, and they let the sponsor have the greater share of voice, and they elected to keep Hut in the car for this year.
Junie Donlevy is a fixture in this sport. I mean, the man is just incredible. He's been around forever, and he does a great job with his team.
Winston West champion Ron Hornaday, and NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champ. He is the new driver for A.J. Foyt.
I do not envy him one bit. He is going to be in for a rough year. Can you imagine A.J. standing on the wall talking to him? Well, he doesn't really, yelling at him, I should say.
These guys wasn't very happy, I know, with their winter testing. No. They was probably one of the slowest Pontiacs. Went back and did a lot of work on this body and trying to get up to speed here.
Looks like he may have been working on that right front corner. Part of his sponsor's name was missing.
There's a 92 of Stacy Compton, one of the 10 Dodges that we'll see in action here in Daytona. Let's meet another of the rookie candidates with Steve Burns.
And that would be Andy Houston. Mike, Andy, we're a long way from where you grew up, Hickory, North Carolina, a little 3/8 mile bull ring. Here we are at Daytona. Tell us about your emotions.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. The McDonald's car seems to be running pretty good so far. We've already made one pretty much baseline run, and the car was pretty quick. So we'll go back out here, make a couple more runs, and work on this thing, and hopefully, get us a good start spot from one of the twins.
All right, thanks a lot, Andy. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Well, Rusty Wallace conferring with crew chief Robin Pemberton on the 2 car. They went out and ran 2 laps. Rusty complained the car was a little towed in, basically meaning that both front tires were pointed toward the inside of the car. The crew did make some adjustments. Rusty's talking things over now with Robin. He is still chasing, like Mark Martin, Terry Labonte, and a few others, that elusive first Daytona 500 victory, and they hope to break through and get that first 500 win this year. He was 4th last year, his best finish in the 500, hoping this year is the breakout year. Dick?
One of the great sports in racing is to try and beat the technical inspectors. Gain every possible advantage you can, and this is what happens when you push it a little bit too far. Mike Joy calls this the pile of denial, and indeed it is. Look at this. These are all fuel cell containers that are oversized, too big, allows a little extra gas to get in the car. NASCAR hauled them all out. These are now property of NASCAR. Let's see what else we've got here. Well, we've got an upper control arm. That's off number 9. That's Bill Elliott's car. Uh-oh, a little bit too thin. Let's see what else we've got here. Here's a fuel cell top. These balls, when the car turns over upside down, these balls are supposed to stop the fuel from running out. But number 66, Todd Bodine's guys, look what they did. They cut a little extra metal out of here to lighten it up a little bit. So NASCAR owns that one. This one here, number 1, Steve Parks guys, they took the ball off altogether. No ball on here at all. So all this stuff is now NASCAR's. Fender extenders. You're not supposed to be able to adjust these. Larry McReynolds will tell you about that. All kinds of stuff on the table for that. Okay, let's go to Jeannie.
Only as good as your last race, then that is very good news for Jerry Nadeau, who actually finished up so strong in Atlanta. You got your first Winston Cup victory. Tough offseason for you to wait, huh?
Actually, it was a pretty good offseason. I think it was a good way to end the year, 2000, and get ready for this season with our new sponsors, UAW Delphi, and also the new TV package this year with NASCAR. I'm excited. I mean, we got a good car, a good team, and we're ready to go here in Daytona.
And what did your team do this offseason to ensure that you would make your way back to victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, we built a lot of new race cars. We hired some more people in the race shop. The guys have been working a lot of hours in the engine shop trying to get some more horsepower. And also, you know, we've been doing some testing together between me and Jeff Gordon and Terry. Things have been going great. I mean, I'm excited this season. I think everywhere we've gone and tested, we've gotten a lot better. And I know this year, I think a lot more people are excited about 2001. It should be an awesome year.
All right, thanks for the time. Continued success. Mike, back to you.
We called that pile of parts next to Dick the pile of denial, because with every part is a crew chief saying, I didn't know that was illegal, and denying responsibility.
Here's my old ride right here, the 31 car. This is the car that actually Mike was leading the Bud Shootout with a year ago and lost an engine right after the pit stop. But Jeff Hammond, aren't you proud that you and I both can say we have never contributed nothing to that pile of stuff?
Now, Larry, I'm smart enough to know that this is being recorded, and I'm not about to go out there on that limb. I've been busted a time or two, but that's just part of the game. I mean, that's the reason why I was talking to one of the NASCAR officials yesterday, and he said, hey, if we weren't catching guys doing something wrong, before too long, we wouldn't have a job. So you've got to push that envelope. It's not anything any different than when you play a football game or a baseball game. Every now and then you step over the line and they throw a flag. That's what yesterday's all about. That is their position as far as drawing the line in the sand and saying, okay, guys, you can't step over it. Well, we step over it just a little bit, and they're going to bust you on it. The fuel cells this year, what's going on there is NASCAR changed the rule from the last few years and went to closed containers, welded on both ends. We used to be able to pull the fuel cell bladders in and out. Now we can't do that. So if you miss it by a 16th or so, they're going to bust you on it. They're letting you know that starting here at Daytona, this is what we're not going to accept to make their jobs easier as the season goes on.
Now, Jeff, if you noticed, there was a lot of pieces there, but what I saw, most everything, for the most part, had to do with the fuel cells. But, you know, we all know that the Daytona 500 can come down to a fuel mileage race. And you would say, well, what little bit of difference could that, maybe an ounce of fuel? But you know what? I was a part of winning Pocono in 1995 when maybe a thimble of gas made the difference. But, Jeff, one thing I was a little surprised was the lightweight A-arms. I don't know if this is really a place that I'd want to be running lightweight A-arms.
No, I agree with you there, Larry, completely. I don't think you, for safety reasons, you need to have light pieces on the suspension, especially here at Daytona. And you put a lot of abuse on that right front tire and on the left front. So you don't need to be taking chances there. But going back to what you were saying about the fuel cells and how you win races here, I believe my comment was here in 1989, I would have drank the fuel that was left in our fuel cell at the end of the 89 victory we were able to pull off between myself and Darrell. So fuel is very important here, and if you can't get it all, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Watching Mike Skinner driving for Richard Childress
Mike,
in a Chevrolet.
Can I just jump in here?
Sure.
I never heard, these two guys, I never heard anything like that my whole life. It's like they're standing in court with their hand on a Bible.
Well, look at all. Look, there's the evidence. There's Exhibit A, B, C, D, all on down the line.
Yeah.
Now, the first driver to suffer what looked to be an engine failure was Terry Labonte. There's Terry outside of his Rick Hendrick Chevrolet, and they are going to make a change there, and we'll update that story when we come back to Daytona. You're watching NASCAR Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500, and you're seeing it live on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway and practice for the Daytona 500. You'll see qualifying live on Fox tomorrow, the Daytona 500 live on Fox, and lots of programming for you on Fox Sports Net and FX all through Speed Weeks and the first half of this NASCAR season. The Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, out for a practice run. Most drivers taking 2, maybe 3 laps, coming back in the garage for adjustments. We talked with some of the drivers who are here in the Winston Cup ranks about the pressures of racing at Daytona.
3 hours of just putting your head between a pair of vice grips and squeezing as hard as you can, because every move you make has to be made with I mean, just so little margin for error.
You can have about 40 of your friends over at your house. You can turn the heat on wide open, and they all can stand in the room together and breathe over everybody and talk and just bump into people or whatever, and see how aggravated it gets after 3.5 hours of doing that.
It's like trying to get to the most important meeting of your life, and you're in rush hour traffic all the time, and you're trying to get around and through traffic. Getting to victory lane is like getting to that meeting on time and then having a successful meeting.
That's exactly what it's like. I tell you, the whole thing about it is they're doing a great job of explaining kind of to the fan what it feels like or what it would feel like to the fan, but it's exactly like driving down the interstate, just like Dale said, and you're trying to get somewhere and there ain't no way to get there.
And from a crew chief perspective, getting ready for this race, if you could imagine for the fan at home, if you just maybe worked a solid year without an off day,
yeah,
that would probably be like what getting ready for this Daytona 500. And you know, so much focus over the winter is put on the 2 laps that they're getting ready to run tomorrow for qualifying. It's like the whole energy is put towards that.
Well, one thing that all of these teams want out of this 2-hour practice is a trouble-free run. It's already gone the wrong way for Terry Labonte. Matt Yoakum?
Mike, it's good news and bad news for Terry Labonte. The bad news, you left a trail of oil when you came in the garage. The good news, just an oil line, Terry?
Yeah, that's what it was. It didn't even start leaking, actually, until I cut the motor off, and I didn't even run a whole lap. I had a tire rubbing, so I went ahead and cut it off when it was coming in, and then it started smoking, and that's when we discovered we had the problem. But luckily, it's just an oil line, so hopefully we'll get that fixed and get back out there.
Even better news, Terry Labonte, the ARCA car owner, son Justin qualified 21st. You must be pretty proud.
Well, I think, yeah, he did a good job, and the car's running pretty good. I think it's really in race trim. He's going to be pretty good. So he's never raced down here before, so he's got his first practice from drafting here coming up later today.
Well, I know he'll be an anxious father on top of the trucks. To Jeff.
What we got going on here, guys, was Terry was trying to talk about having an oil line loose. A lot of times, as you can see, this is the oil pump. This is where the oil that comes from the reserve tank goes into the engine, is forced through the engine, and returns back to the tank, which is back behind the driver's seat. It is very difficult sometimes to get these oil lines tight. They have special wrenches for it, and you can see down here, it's very close in here, and it's very easy sometimes for these oil lines not to get tight enough. So when they go out on the racetrack, the car gets good and hot, these oil lines will spring a leak, and you'll have that little bit of oil start to run out, which, you know, Terry was very lucky that he caught it early. Otherwise, he could have come loose totally and put his car in the wall or another competitor.
Larry, isn't there a lot of repetitive assembly work involved in a week of practice? And certainly every time you remove an engine, put an engine in, or make any change on the car, there's just that opportunity for human error.
Well, there really is. And, you know, what we try to do is you've got, you know, 6 or 7 guys at the racetrack, and these guys will maybe over the next 11 days, they may change motors 7 or 8 times. But you try to keep the same guy doing the same thing each time. I think the chance of mistake goes down. But a lot of times those lines are actually put on at the engine shop by the engine guys. And the biggest thing I saw in the replay there with Terry Darrell, the oil, he was wiggling a little bit. There was oil getting underneath those rear tires.
Yeah, what happened, from a driver's perspective, he comes back in, and he's not a very happy camper, because the first thing he says is, okay, guys, everybody come over here. Y'all haven't left anything else loose on this car, have you?
Now, it begs the question, why not quick disconnect fittings?
They're not, I don't think they're legal.
Yeah,
that's a good reason.
Yeah, they're not legal, but I think the chance of leaking on a quick disconnect, and I know a lot of airplanes and a lot of things use quick disconnect, but I think, one, like Darrell said, they're not legal, but I think the chance of leaking.
Yeah, the whole thing is that we used to change engines. I changed the engine one time in 11 minutes at Martinsville and finished 10th. We had a quick disconnects everywhere, and the problem was that somebody leave one of. There was more apt to leave one of those loose, not hooked up well, than they were to tighten up a line. So I think they outlawed the quick disconnects in those areas.
And that mechanic's not napping. He's waiting for that rear end gear fluid to drain so they can.
He's trying to get that tiger. The tiger's in there. That's what he's trying to get him out of there. Trying to get him out of the tank.
Let's go meet the fastest man on the speed chart so far. Here's Dick.
And I'm with Robbie Gordon. He has a new ride, the Morgan McClure number 4. The crew chief with his team is also new with the team, David Ift. You're quick today. How's the car feel?
Car feels really good. I knew we'd come here to Daytona with this race team and run real strong. You know, they've run strong in the past before. I think, you know, to roll out and be that quick, we're pretty surprised because we did know we had our homework cut out for us. The engine shop did a great job. The crew did a really good job getting the cars prepared. So I'm looking forward to Daytona this week.
Good bit of work has gone on since you cut that quick lap. What has been done to the car?
We changed a couple of things. I really don't want to go into exactly what we changed, but you know, everybody's going to gain speed as the day goes on. They got what, a day and a half to catch us before qualifying, so you have to be on your toes and make advances just as quick as well.
A lot of people think this guy could be the winner of the Daytona 500 or any other race this year.
Well, this team has won the 500 with Ernie Irvan and twice with Sterling Marlin. So teams rush back and forth from pit road to the garage area as this 2-hour practice session continues for Daytona 500 qualifying. There you see them pulling out the axle shaft to change that gear on Terry Labonte's car and get him back out to run a few laps. There's Kyle Petty in his Dodge out for the first time. You're watching Daytona 500 practice on Fox Sports Net. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to Fox Racing. You're watching Fox Sports Net's continuing coverage, 43 hours, as we take you up to the 43rd running of the Daytona 500 and the waterways there where Ponce de Leon sailed looking for the Fountain of Youth. Of course, the bridge wasn't there at the time. Quick reminder here tomorrow, Winston Cup practice rounds at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific here on Fox Sports Net. Then on Fox, 1 o'clock Eastern, pole qualifying for the Daytona 500, a race you'll see a week from Sunday on Fox, and then the Goodies Dash 200 on FX tomorrow at 4:30. Now on Sunday, NASCAR this morning gets you going up and early at 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports Net. The Budweiser Shootout, which again has former pole winners along with the pole winners of last year as well. 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific. You'll see that live. And NASCAR Victory Lane wraps things up on Fox Sports Net at 9 o'clock Eastern. And we welcome in the guy who ushered in the new era of Fox Racing, Ken Squire, a veteran of many, many years of auto racing and Daytona 500s, actually coined the phrase, the Great American Race, which is one of...
And I was not responsible for the play-by-play on Ponce de Leon.
Okay, that's what that Mike Joy joked that you were there and made the call, but you've seen a lot of qualifying and a lot of practice runs here at Daytona, Ken, with Jeff Hammond, of course. And first of all, today's efforts from the drivers, how does that relate to tomorrow's qualifying as they get closer and closer to the Great American Race?
Well, everything counts today because the weather looks pretty much the same all the way to the weekend. Going to be no big barometric drops, nothing like that. And that wind that they're getting on the nose of those cars down the backstretch, probably what they're going to get tomorrow, and they kick out of turn number 4 about the same. They're talking this year about how they've changed qualifying throughout the season, the first half of the season, which you'll be seeing on Fox with 1 round, and that is not true here at Daytona. There is a second round on Monday, and of course tomorrow we're only selecting the 2 cars for the front row, and we have 49 cars to make the effort. 49 ready to go to try for those 2 front spots. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see if Brother Yates can do it again. He pulled it off last year with Ricky Rudd on the outside, and of course he had Jared up there. It's the 3rd time that the Yates team as such has been up here on the front row since Davey Allison back in '82. And I'd like to ask Jeff Hammond how he feels really as it sugars off after you saw all that work in January as to who are going to be the stout ones when we get down to running for the pole position in this 43rd annual 500 Sunday the 18th.
Well, Ken, what you were talking about a few minutes ago, the Yates equation. Darrell and I had a privilege of talking about it a few weeks ago. I feel like that Robert Yates is probably the best restrictor plate guy out there today. And I feel like tomorrow we'll bear that out once more time, because I feel like that the Yates cars will be contenders once again for the front row. But the sleepers may be the Gibbs team. You know, they've been on the front row before. They're coming off a very much a fantastic season. And again, they've had an opportunity to fine-tune their cars. They haven't had a big body change, so they're getting ready to I think make a run for the pole again.
And Robert Yates Motors, you saw a moment ago, UPS and the new colors, Dale Jarrett, who when we spoke to him yesterday at Media Day, said, Jeff, yeah, I'm glad I won the Daytona 500. Honestly, it was boring. I expect a much more exciting race this year, and he expects to be a part of it. But we're going ahead, Ken.
Well, only that Tony Stewart, remember 2 years rookie down here, he sat outside of the front row, and I think that Jeff's really on target. That again, that Gibbs combination could really put one on here tomorrow in pole position qualifying. Question, Jeff, how many cars do you want out here on a practice day like this, on this 2.5-mile track? You see all these cars lined up on pit road, but the issue is, how far apart do you want to be? How many can get out there and get clean air? Find out how they're running.
If you look on top of the transporters, you will see the crew chiefs as well as spotters. There's some of them up here on the middle of the photographer stand to be able to take a look and try to make sure they keep a distance of, over a straightaway behind each one another. I like the idea of having 3 cars on the racetrack. I like the idea of having one guy over here on the back straightaway, one guy coming over off of turn 2, and then send my guy out. And that gives me that buffer zone that I feel like I can say I've got a clean air run. That's an honest run. And tomorrow I won't be surprised when NASCAR hands out their plate and we make that ultimate run for the glory, and we're not disappointed, because you've got to have clean air. You just do not believe how important it is to not have a car out there in front of you, because you can get just a little bit of help at the very far end of the straightaway, and it can make a big difference in your time.
All right, I want to talk more about drafting, Jeff Hammond, and the effects on that and some clear explanation. Let's go back up to the broadcast booth with Mike Joy.
Well, Chris, today is a shakedown day for these teams, also for our NASCAR on Fox TV crew, a rookie crew, but made up many NASCAR TV veterans, and also for NASCAR, as their timing and scoring information is coming to us a bit at a time. As of right now, Robbie Gordon tops the speed chart. Stacy Compton, second.
Listen, I think Robbie Gordon got a little bit of help. I was watching when he run, and help, folks, means that he did get a little draft off of a car down the racetrack there. So I believe he may have gotten some help. You never know.
You know, the thing that impressed me was Stacy Compton in the Dodge in second position there, and he's about, I think he is the only Dodge team that is a single car operation.
Yeah, correct.
Look back through the 20 fastest and now through the top 30.
See Dave Marcus there in 22nd. That's a Richard Childress Racing car and engine.
Exactly. Earnhardt, 33rd.
Right about where he tested.
I think he'll be 33rd on race day.
I don't think he will be, and I don't think that 18 will be there either.
The king and son, Richard Petty and Kyle Petty, now the CEO of Petty Enterprises, leading a 3-car team here. We'll be back with more Daytona 500 practice on Fox Sports Net.
Welcome back to Daytona for this practice session. Jeff Gordon seems to win the Daytona 500 every other year. He won it in '97. He won it in '99. Work is done. Window net is up in the car. What did they do? Change the exhaust pipes in the car. I asked him why. He said, Dick, more speed. That's what this is all about. More speed. Let's go to Steve Burns.
Thanks, Dick. We're with Kyle Petty. Kyle, doing the research, was it really 1979 when you won your first race in a Dodge Magnum?
In a Dodge Magnum, and I challenge somebody to go find one in a parking lot somewhere right now because they're just not around. But it was good. When we came back to test, we were really excited to bring the Dodges back to Daytona with Ray Evernham and with Dodge and with Bill Davis and Ganassi and Mark Mellon and that whole crowd. It was pretty exciting to be down here for the test. I think it's more exciting to be back and be in race mode.
Where do you guys need to improve, Kyle? How do you assess your situation right now?
Well, I think we need to improve everywhere. I told all the guys yesterday during the media day that I would like to look back on this year and say the Daytona 500 was the worst the Dodges ever were because we've only got 500 days under our belt with these cars. Really a solid year on building cars and building engines. And, we're not where the Fords are and we're not where the Chevys are technology-wise as far as experience-wise. Technology-wise, we are. Experience with the car, we're not. So, I'd like to think that we're a little bit behind, but even being a little bit behind, I'd like to think we can run competitive with them.
All right, thanks very much, Kyle. Let's check in with Jeannie.
Well, now we know the drivers go through plenty of inspections just to get back out onto the track, and Ricky Craven no exception either. A driver that went through several inspections, you might say, several physicals, to show to the world that, hey, you're past this concussion syndrome and you're feeling good.
I'm feeling great, and really thankful that I've got this opportunity to race for Tide, race with Cal Wells and the team, and our expectations are pretty high. We had 3 quality tests in the month of January, so we feel good going into the season, and we feel good about our potential.
And your first full-time ride, yourself personally, first full-time ride since '97, how important is it for you to make a statement here at Daytona?
Oh, it's so important because it's hard to do anything part-time, but you absolutely positively cannot race Winston Cup part-time and be successful. So it allows me at 34 years to be back full-time with a fantastic organization. But there's going to be some challenges. You know, the schedule is going to be demanding, and I'm preparing for that. My family and I have helped try to eliminate distraction and just have a great season.
And you're only as good as the team behind you, and it seems like they're behind you now. So much success this season. And Darrell, I have to ask you, all the years that you've been racing and now that you've stepped out of it, these physicals that the drivers have to go through, they must have increased over the years.
Well, they really have. One of the things that I got tired of, my old body got tired of, was working out 2 or 3 times a week. Everybody has trainers now. Everybody has nutritionists to help them with their diet. Focus. I mean, that's all you hear them talking about is focus. The way you focus is stay in great mental and physical condition, and the guy that's in the best shape on those hot August and July afternoons is the guy that hangs in there and wins the race. I used to wear Richard and those guys out because I was younger than they were, and I was more in better condition than they were. And now you're seeing that same thing happen. That's why you want these 20, 24-year-old kids out there racing every Sunday afternoon.
You know how Ricky Craven got back in shape this winter? He got a snowmobile dealership up in Newburgh, Maine, and 2 Sundays ago he took 135 riders on a round-the-state ride and picked up $75,000 in pledges for charity.
Ricky's, I like Ricky Craven. I think he's going to do a great job in that car this year. That team, you know, they were a rookie team last year. They struggled a lot. But Ricky brings a lot to the table. He's a very good chassis guy, good aero guy, and they're not lacking for finances. So I can expect great things out of that team this year.
Here's the car that has been fastest so far, 182.16 miles per hour, Robbie Gordon.
Car for a while was just about anybody could drive that car and win at Daytona. Matter of fact, I told Earnhardt if he ever wanted to win the 500, he ought to see if he can get a ride in that car one year. But they hit up on hard times. One of the things that happened to them is when Chevrolet went from the 18-degree motor to the SB2, they really got behind.
Look right there, the orange tape at the bottom. That's what we talk about, the valence, the bottom of the bumper. And I'm a little surprised, Darrell, that it's not any closer to the ground than it is. Normally closer to the ground, it's sealing the bottom of the car off to the ground. You'll run faster.
One of the things, Larry, that I was talking to a couple of guys about, my brother was one of them, is what they have found with this aero package that you can't tape the car up solid. See how it's open in the middle there, the grill is? They can't tape these cars up solid now, and attitude, we know about attitude, don't we? Attitude has, it's everything. How that car is setting down the straightaway, whether the nose is up or the nose is down, but the attitude of the car is making all the difference in the world, how fast they are.
Well, and I think when attitude becomes such a major player was when NASCAR, and we hadn't talked about this today, these guys cannot run softer than 350-pound springs rear. We used to qualify with 100-pound springs. It looked like old Tijuana taxi going down the back straightaway.
It's a taco wagon.
So now that you're locked in with shocks and springs in the rear, all you've got to play with is front springs and shocks. But sometimes, yeah, you can get the front of the car down too much where it's actually got the rear spoiler hiked up in the air.
Yeah, we found that. And attitude in racing, I think that's the key to your success. And I know a guy down there that's got a little attitude, and maybe we ought to go down and see what he's got to say today.
Well, Darrell, first of all, you're just killing me. If you don't stop talking, Michael here's going to go run get in his race car. But, hey, man, you look pretty good in blue. New uniform, new team, Dale Earnhardt Inc. How do you feel?
Well, I went over and modeled it for my mom, and she said it made my eyes bluer, and it was very nice. So
I can't speak to that.
I'm happy with my new look. I got a new team.
He needed blue eyes are brown.
A lot of tension in this garage right here. You could cut it with a knife, or you couldn't cut it with a knife. Anyway, in there, you've got no points. You got a bunch of guys who worked real hard, tested good all winter, and now they want to see the car go out and run. And we're not quite where we want to be yet, but I think we got a lot of potential with our car, even in qualifying trim. The Dodges, of course, are fast, which we all knew. They were fakers. And I just hope to put the Napa Chevy solidly in the field tomorrow afternoon in qualifying. Steve Hanshew and all the guys at Napa are watching in for our first Winston Cup race with these guys. That's big, isn't it?
It's huge. Now, DW just babbled in my ear that your eyes are usually brown. You want to comment on that?
No, I don't know what he means by that, but I'm very, very happy to be in Daytona, and I know my brother is as well. He did not retire, folks. He changed careers. He quit driving, and he started talking about it. And he's real excited about being in Florida, and I'm real excited about him telling the world about what we do on Sunday afternoons. I know he's going to add a whole lot to it, and I can't wait for it all to get started Sunday afternoon in the Daytona 500, the great American race.
Well, one thing, Darrell is not short of confidence. Hope you get that race car, Pat.
He sounds like he's auditioning for your job.
I'll tell you what.
He's got all the cliches, everything.
Go on back there and get in that car, boy. Get out there on the track and let us worry about the great American race and telling people about it. No, he's going to. I really am excited for him. We've been talking a lot, and I know he's going to have a great year. He's under a lot of pressure, by the way. You know, when you drive for Earnhardt, it's one thing to race against him. You know what's going to happen to you there.
Well, not only that,
drive for him.
That's a brand new team. As Michael alluded to, they have no provisional points to fall back on. They have to race their way into the Daytona 500 on Thursday or go home.
That's exactly right, and he knows that, and that's a lot of pressure to put on any team. I don't care who you are. But he does look good in that blue uniform.
But you know, as Junior's teammate, when he starts wearing his hat backwards, that's what I'm going to worry about.
Oh, I know. It must be some kind of Earnhardt policy. You got to have facial hair. And
Earnhardt Jr. policy.
Maybe that's it.
Robbie Gordon is the fastest. He's in a Chevrolet. Stacy Compton's Dodge is second. Dale Jarrett third. Ward Burton fourth. And Steve Park is fifth on the speed chart in this first hour of practice.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Net's continuing coverage of Fox Racing and the Daytona 500. The haulers arriving early yesterday, unloading, setting up the cars, the drivers and crews getting ready. And at 10 o'clock Eastern, they hit the track for the first time. Winston Cup practicing, of course, the return of Dodge to NASCAR racing. Jeff Gordon, a two-time Daytona 500 winner. In fact, we have 6 prior Daytona 500 winners practicing today. Jeff Gordon with the new Flames as we are in the midst of the first Winston Cup practice qualifying tomorrow. You'll see that live, of course, on Fox. Let's return upstairs. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy.
Now we got a red flag. I think somebody going down in the tree there has got smoke pouring out of the back of their car. So,
well, it's not Mark Martin. Mark looks pretty thrilled about what's happened here in the first hour of practice.
Oh, yeah. He says this is going to be another long year. I can see it coming.
Well,
he's mad because he's not in the IROC race.
I think he's mad because he's 35th fastest right now, Darrell. The Roush cars are struggling. Jeff Burton is 27th quickest. Martin is 35th. Kenseth is 37th. And Kurt Busch is not in the top 45. Dick Bergman, what's going on?
Well, I don't know. Let's ask Mark. What is going on? Not as fast as you usually are.
Well, we're as fast as we can be right now, so basically we just got to wait and get ready to race here.
What are you doing to the car, Mark, to try to pick it up?
Nothing. We don't really have anything. All our work's been done. We're just we're stuck with what we've got now. We've got a little something to pick up tomorrow that we've got in the bag, but it probably will be, if we're lucky, half of what we need. And then we go race. And sometimes racing's a little bit different story. We have to hope so anyway.
It's a character builder for sure. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Well, Dick, the attitude much better over here in the 22 pit. Ward Burton very fast on the clock, 4th overall at this juncture. What are you guys working on now?
Well, we're just trying to get the attitude of the car better. You know, when we tested Talladega, we learned a certain attitude that the Dodge wants. We're trying to get that now, but obviously Daytona track's a lot different than Talladega track. So it's going to be difficult to be able to travel the same in the front and the rear like we did Talladega, but we're going to keep working on it.
Now, the Dodges seem to struggle down here in winter testing. Where did you guys find the extra speed?
Well, we just needed time with the car, really, Matt. You know, when we were here, we learned a lot. We picked up a lot. But when we went to Talladega, we were able to have 2 really stress-free days I can't begin to tell you how organized the team has been. Tommy Ball and those guys, I mean, I would get out of one car, getting out of a car. We probably run these cars 50 times with really solid rock scientist stuff we had learned from the wind tunnel with all the time that Dodge has given us. This CAT team has worked all winter long, all last year, and I'm just happy it's paying off for them today.
Not to stir the pot, but someone from the Chevy camp, I'll hypothetically call him Michael Waltrip, says that the Dodgers may have been sandbagging a little bit.
Nah, we hadn't sandbagged at all. I mean, really, what good is it going to do us to sandbag? NASCAR, everybody's going to see what you got. We've worked hard. We worked all year in that 2000 campaign on getting here today. I mean, there's been a lot of collected effort into this program. I'm just happy for them. I see them smiling, and, you know, the amount of sacrifice these guys have made, their families have made, they deserve to run well, and I think we will.
Well, they certainly look very fast early on in practice. They're taping up the nose, trying to find a little more speed. Mike?
Matt, the caution period, which is about to end, was for NASCAR officials to check out some debris that was reported to be out on the backstretch. Look down there at 9th spot. Now, there's a pleasant surprise. James Finch's Chevrolet with Jeff Purvis aboard in the top 10. I'm not sure if that lap was wind-aided, as they say in track and field. Might have got a little tow, or if he was out by himself. We'll check it out when we come back to Daytona 500 practice on Fox Sports Net.
Just 9 days away from the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, and you'll see it on Fox. And we're in the midst of our 43 hours of race coverage for the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. Speed Week's a lot going on, and you'll see a lot of it right here. Winston Cup practice tomorrow, beginning bright and early, 8:30 Eastern on Fox Sports Net. The Daytona 500 pole qualifying, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific on Fox, and then the Goodies Dash 200 on FX at 4:30 Eastern. If you don't have FX, get it. There'll be a lot of racing, Fox racing, throughout the NASCAR season. Then on Sunday, NASCAR This Morning gets you going at 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports Net. The Budweiser Shootout, Ken Schrader has the pole. That was by draw, and former pole winners involved in that at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific, live on Fox, and then NASCAR Victory Lane with the recap at 9 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports Net. So plenty of racing coverage, and back to the first day of Winston Cup practicing here at Daytona with Mike Joy.
Robbie Gordon still atop the speed chart, but interesting, 3 single-car teams, including Gordon, Stacy Compton, who's second fastest, and Jeff Purvis, who is now 10th quickest, are all single-car teams.
You know, I'm eligible to run the Busch Clash. My name's on the entry list. I'm a former winner of that race. Yep. And so I went down there yesterday, and I talked to a lot of different car owners about, you know, maybe I could slip in there and run Sunday. And only thing everybody ever said was, well, we got a decent backup car that we might be able to get off for you. I'm walking around saying, look, man, look where I've fallen to. Falling down to a decent backup car.
But you know what, DW? It's just Friday. We got Jeff down there. If Mike can handle the booth up here on Sunday, I believe we can get we can make it a decent primary car.
Man, I had a plan. I said, I'll get out there and do the race from the track. And it'd be, you know, in-car camera talking as we go around and explaining what was going on. I mean, I thought it would be exciting.
It would be.
And if we could just find us a good car.
I don't think Mike's buying this.
I don't think he. My wife sure isn't buying it. I know that.
It'd get awful lonely up here.
Hey, Daryl.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. I have worked with you on the radio during a race. And you really think that the fans out there could stand Daryl Walker trying to give a play-by-play sometimes in that voice that you get into?
They'd never know what I said, but they know I was talking.
You know that noise the car's making in the corner? That'd be Daryl. That wouldn't be the tires.
Nat?
You know, Ricky Craven said you can't do it part-time, so maybe I ought to think that over, too. That goes our whole year, though. The second half. You know that plan we had? Me and you and Jeff?
Yeah. I'm in there. Let's go. Let's do it.
I guess the second half of the year we can't do it part-time. So. You know anything about fishing?
We'll tell that story next week.
I don't fish.
Hey, never say never. Remember you told me that?
That's
never
right.
say never.
I know.
You saw Robert Yates. There he is. He owns the 88 and the 28 of Dale Jarrett and Ricky Rudd, the front row for last year's Daytona 500. Watching his cars out in practice. Dick Bergman.
Well, he's got an interesting situation, Mike. The number 88, driven by Dale Jarrett, is the third quickest car out here so far today, but his other car, the one that's on the racetrack right now, the 28, driven by Ricky Rudd, is slow. 26th fastest. And what Robert is doing right now is he's clocking segments, portions of the racetrack as Ricky goes through them, and he's talking Ricky through the corners. Right now, Rudd is between turns 3 and 4. Robert's telling him about line. He's telling him about speed occasionally, and when you see his mouth move, that's what it's at. And that shake of the head, he didn't like what had just happened. Apparently, Rudd is still not as fast as Robert would like to see him go.
But, you know, the good news is he's got a fast car and a slow car, so he should be able to take the information from the fast car and apply it to the slower car and bring him up to speed. So that's a good thing about having a good teammate.
And, you know, Robert has been one of the guys that for years has learned to clock different portions of the racetrack.
yeah.
Even though you're running wide open around Daytona, you know, sometimes maybe you're scrubbing speed off a little bit too much in the corner, and that's where you're losing time. And he knows to tell those guys, look, we need to work on this. And I think Dick Bergman's back with Robert Yates right now.
Hey, yeah, I am, Larry. Robert, what did you see out there that can help Ricky?
It's just bogging down in the corner a little bit on the exit. Good segments everywhere but there, and that hurts the straightaway a little bit, but it's mostly just you almost see the car slow down there, and of course my segments show that. Just got to work on, must be getting over, you know, picking up too much diagonal weight or something right there.
Now, can you take stuff off Dale Jarrett's car, the setup on the DJ car, and put it under Ricky's car and make it go fast, make up for this problem?
Well, the cars aren't exactly the same, and but they work together. They look over each deal. Sometimes, you know, cars take a little bit different think, and but it's nice to have that to go look at. But that's the difference in the cars right now. They're pretty much equal, except DJ's rolling through the center a little better.
He'll get him come Sunday for sure. Let's go to Jeannie.
Thanks, Dick. Do you see what I don't see, the lack of sponsorship here at Kenny Wallace? And do you have somebody lined up for the Daytona 500?
I'll tell you what, we came down here, hopes high, no sponsor on the car, and it's been a little bit of a burden, but right now the biggest thing we'd like to see is a big name right across my fire suit here. So, you know, it's Speed Weeks 2001. We're down here to perform, put numbers on the board, and the guys are back at the offices hunting hard for a sponsor right now. So hopefully things will come along.
Well, they're at the office, but you're here. Are you thinking about it? Is it a distraction for you at all?
Oh, it's definitely a burden. I'm a pretty focused race car driver, so, you know, I drive the race car, focus on my duty on the racetrack, and let those guys do that. But it has been a burden all winter long. You know, I've got a lot of fans out there, a lot of people that want to see me do good, including myself. And, you know, I'm a fierce competitor, so that's that Wallace name in me. You know, I just want to run good, so it has been a big burden.
Well, we'll let you sell it a little bit because you left a team that had a lot of sponsors, and you came here. Obviously, you must have a lot of faith in these guys.
Well, I have a lot of faith in Eel River Racing, for sure. You know, every time I watched the car last year, it always qualified good and ran well. It had a problem making it to the end of the races, but, you know, I left a team where I finished 22nd, 26th in the points, and, you know, if it's not one thing, it's another. You know, racing's about winning. The problem I was having was that the constant antagonization of when you're going to run better. You know, so this is a tough sport. There's 43 guys that start every week, and, you know, if you're not 7th, 8th, or 9th, then how come you didn't finish second? So, you know, all moves in racing are like a chess game. Everybody's always trying to make a move to be better. So I made a move, you know. It's early in the season. We haven't started the first race yet, so we'll see how it pans out about halfway through the year.
Well, if you're still struggling for sponsorship, I can get you a Fox Sports sticker you can at least put on there for Sunday.
That's
show
great.
that off a little bit.
That'd be great.
Thank you for the time. Steve?
Well, Jeannie, Stacy Compton and his team are on the move. Let's get a quick word in here. Stacy, tell us what's going on. What are you guys doing?
We're just trying to get a little bit quicker. I tell you, the Kodiak, Bell, and Intrepid is pretty good. We was pretty happy with the way we unloaded. Got a little bit of speed to pick up, but we're pretty happy right now. First time out. We made a whole lot of changes after we tested at Talladega and here, and pretty happy. The crew has done a lot of hard work, put in a lot of hours. Chad Canals, the new crew chief, has done a real good job, and we're pretty happy so far. You know, we want to get a few more laps and see if we can get a little bit better, and see if we can be ready for them tomorrow.
All right, we got to stop because we're out of breath. Let's go to Matt Yoakley. Thanks, Stacy.
Well, Steve, Jeff Purvis, Busch Series driver, is now planning a 4-race schedule in Winston Cup this year. The 4 plate races with James Finch, his former Busch Series car owner. 11th overall at this juncture, Jeff. obviously must be pretty pleased. What is the team working on now to try to maybe get a little higher up on the speed chart?
Right now we're just going to make one run this morning and then one this afternoon and try to save this motor and everything for qualifying tomorrow. So we'll make one before we qualify in the morning and just make a change each time and try to maybe pick it up a little bit from there. But we've, you know, Mark Reno and Johnny Allen's crew chief in this car, and they're good on these races right here. You know, I was really excited when they asked me to do it, and Joe Gibbs was kind enough to let me come do it. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be you know, I think we maybe can move up the chart some more from where we're at right now.
Is that your best motor in the car right now?
Being it's about our only motor, I would say, yeah. No, we've got some other motors with us, but it really is it's the best one, and we don't want to put a lot of runs on it because we know it'll lose a little bit each time we go out. So, you know, right now we haven't hurt it, and we don't anticipate hurting it before qualifying. So, you know, we've got to save it for, you know, the qualifying effort.
Well, good luck. James Finch, the car owner, normally runs Chevrolet products, but they bought a Ford from Robbie Gordon, who now is driving the 4 car, and they bought some motors from Ernie Elliott because Ernie now is helping out in the Dodge program. Mike?
Kind of a leftover fire sale of really good stuff.
Well, it really, and you know, the thing that's interesting, listening to Jeff talk, and we've talked about this in the first hour, is most teams have practice motors in. They can go out there and make as many runs as they can in this practice session. But this team, being just kind of thrown together at the last minute, they've got their qualifying motor in. And you know, what is a qualifying motor? It's got lighter parts in it. It's designed just to run a few laps. The engine guys, Darrell, turn the oil pressure down to where it's just got enough oil pressure to say it's got some. That makes more power, and every time you run these things, they slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They take a little edge off of them because of the way that they're built. They're built, like you say, they're hand grenades, and they're liable to explode any minute out here. One thing I'll say about Kenny Wallace, he ought to be somewhat encouraged because that car, Johnny Benson came down here last year with no sponsor on his car, and he was leading the Daytona 500 with 20 laps to go. So, you know, never know for Kenny. He might pull something out.
Oh, awful. That suit he had on didn't even have the name of the company that made it. There was nothing on that suit, and there's nothing on that car, but it's early in speed weeks. Robbie Gordon tops the chart. Stacy Compton, that Chevy and Dodge were the 2 fastest times. Dale Jarrett, Ward Burton, and Steve Hart. Before he became a full-time racer, what was Rusty Wallace's day job? We'll tell you when we come back. You're watching Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500. Great day for sunbathing here in Daytona and for watching the cars go around.
And doing the nails.
Yes. One of the great things about Winston Cup racing is that every one of these drivers started out racing part-time at a little short track with a meager budget. Nobody got a big contract out of college. Nobody had a free ride through school. They all earned their way here to the big time, starting from very humble beginnings. And that's why we have a series of features to show you on the racing roots of some of today's great drivers.
In St. Louis, Missouri, you know, many moons ago, I was repairing vacuum cleaners for a living, and I was working on race cars on the side, and when I got my first race car and I won my first race, it was in my blood. And so all I thought about was racing then. And I found myself just traveling all over the country, dumped a vacuum cleaner job, stayed broke for week after week after week, but was having a better time than anything in my whole life. My very first car was a blue and an orange number 66 car. My mom got the sponsorship for me. I think it was $500 for the whole year. So we didn't have a big budget, that was for sure, but it busted my career off, and I won a lot of races with that car.
Well,
well, they used to call Benny Parsons the world's fastest cab driver because he drove a cab in Detroit for his dad, Harold. And there's the world's fastest vacuum cleaner repairman.
Yep.
Right there. Dick Bergman.
And he's still going hard.
Yep.
Well, Rusty Wallace was the fastest guy in preseason testing. Not quite the fastest yet, but almost. How's the car?
The car's real good. We've had a good session so far. We've been out twice. We're trying just little things that we wanted to try in a test session that we didn't get to try, but right now we're 6th or 7th on the board. I think that's pretty respectable. I know there's going to be a lot of guys putting big motors in tomorrow, a little bit more horsepower, and unfortunately we're tapped out where we're at. So
this is the biggest motor you got, strongest, most powerful?
Strongest one we got. We unloaded with everything we had. So it's going to be important to get the cars up front, but I'll tell you, at the end of the 2nd or 3rd lap in a Daytona 500, I think the guy who's leading could honestly be 30th. I mean, it's really going to change around a lot with these new rules.
How big would it be for you to get the pole here for the Daytona 500?
Well, it'd be real big to get the pole, but it wouldn't be near as big as it would be to win the doggone Daytona 500, and that's a race that I've come close to winning the last 3 years in a row. And I think the team's deserving of it. I don't know if I could have said that in the past. I didn't think we were strong enough, but I think we're strong enough now to win this thing. And we led the most laps a couple years ago, a couple years before that, and last year just a solid top 5 all of speed weeks, and we're hoping to do that again.
Now, you ran a couple of laps out there, got out of the race car, assembled your team, and there was a conversation that lasted about 10 minutes. How can you talk for 10 minutes when you only run for about 2?
Well, you got to talk and vent a little bit and make sure you're not making a wrong decision, because we don't want to put much time in the engine. We don't want to get the engine too hot, and we got a lot of practice today, so we want to make calculated decisions that are right. I don't want to make a bunch of knee-jerk decisions just to try things. If it makes sense, we'll try it. If it doesn't make sense, we'll maybe make that a 3rd or 4th change.
He was chairman of the board in those meetings. To Steve Burns.
Well, Dick, we've heard that Kenny Schrader has a problem, felt the vibration on that last run. He's been one of the fast cars. He's debriefing with one of his crew members. We'll get back to you in just a second and talk to Kenny Schrader.
Schrader is 7th fastest right now. Rusty Wallace is 8th. Johnny Benson has jumped to 4th on the speed chart, but that looked like a wind-aided run.
He got a little bit of help, and I just want to tell you about Rusty. It takes a long time sometimes for a driver to explain what he's talking about. You got to explain it. It's not easy to do. Those crew members, you know.
Here's a look at the top 10 speeds so far. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 9th on the chart. Steve Park in 6th. We're going to take you all the way down through the field and show you the fastest laps for each driver in nearly 2 hours of Winston Cup practice.
See Ricky Craven there in 11th, and that's a Robert Yates power plant as well.
It's a real Robert Yates power plant.
Rookie Andy Houston in the top 20, so is Brett Bodine. Sterling Marlin's up there in 13th.
Andy Houston.
Dale Earnhardt 27th. Ricky Rudd 28th.
Jeff Burton 30th, won the Pepsi 400 here back in July.
He did.
Winston Cup champ Bobby Labonte mired in 36th fastest. Rookie of the Year Matt Kenseth in 40th. And the rest of the 49 cars that have been on the track so far this morning. We'll be right back. The only busier place than what you're looking at is across at the airport in air traffic control. This is where the spotters stand atop the roof of the main grandstand, the Winston Tower. And there's Larry's coach driver instructing the spotters.
And you didn't have to do that on the first broadcast.
More spotters and crew chiefs. Rusty Wallace having a word with Willie T. Ribbs, who's going to run some NASCAR this year. Dick Berggren.
Well, I'm going to bust right into the middle of this thing. Willie T., what do you think of this whole deal?
Awesome. Flat awesome.
What are you going to be doing later on this year? What's your season look like?
Well, we've been practicing and putting in as many miles as we can, and to find out, I mean, in this business, you're always searching for numbers. So that's the objective right now.
Rush to give you some pointers to go quick here at Daytona?
Oh, yeah, he's always got something up his sleeve. I'm looking again.
So what's next for you?
Get ready for practice.
Okay, he's going to be running a truck here at Daytona.
Hey, Dick, ask him about the hat. I'd like to know about the hat. That's a cool hat. I'd like to know where he got it.
Willie, wait a minute. Don't leave. Darrell Waltrip wants to know about the hat. Really, I do, too. You know, your hat's a whole lot smarter than my hat. Where'd that thing come from?
Darrell doesn't remember, but I was in FFA. I used to raise show hogs. So
you raised what?
Show hogs.
What are they?
They're hogs that were for show. We didn't even eat them. They were just, you know, put a bikini on them, and they were for looks only.
There you go, folks. Willie T. Ribbs. I had nothing to do with that.
Aside from Darrell Waltrip,
you know
the most quotable character in racing.
He's going to fit into this sport just fine.
Yes, he is. Steve?
The only guy in the garage area that could follow show hogs is Kenny Schrader. Kenny, we heard you had a little vibration. Tell us about the car.
Car's real good. We tried different gear ratio that time, and the gear vibrated a little bit, or else got drive shaft switched or something. But we're putting in a different one, so we're real happy. The M&M's car's good. Johnny's little car is real good and solid. So let's see what we got.
You're kind of on a roll. You won a Southwest Tour race in Phoenix, and you're on the pole for the Budweiser Shootout.
Yeah, so far it's going. I've also blown an engine already this year, so no, it's we had a fun little weekend in Phoenix last weekend. Won the tour race and the Winston West race, and starting on the pole a shootout. But shootout's fun. We really thank Anheuser-Busch for doing that, but looking forward to that 500 also.
All right, thanks. Good luck, Kenny.
Thank you.
Yeah, just tell him that I said he's a great Winston West driver.
Here is the starting lineup for the Budweiser shootout. Ken Schrader and Dale Earnhardt up on the front row. Yesterday at a luncheon they drew for these positions. That's how the first 10 will line up. Last year's pole winners, past winners of the Bud shootout, or Busch Clash as it was, and Ted Musgrave, who was the wild card draw. That's how the field will look Sunday afternoon, live on Fox when we bring you the Budweiser shootout. This first 2 hours of Winston Cup practice drawing to a close. We'll be right back.
Want to trade some paint?
I'm in the wall.
Catch NASCAR's best as they take on the track too tough to tame, Darlington Raceway. For tickets, call 843-395-8499 or visit our website. Want to trade some paint? These guys do.
And the track is humming. 9 days until the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. 43 hours of nonstop all-to-wall coverage on Fox, FX, and what you're watching now, Fox Sports Net. Can Jeff Gordon bounce back? Will Dale Jarrett repeat? We'll cover it all. And a big weekend, of course, as you see on tomorrow, Saturday, Winston Cup practice beginning at 8:30 Eastern on the net. And then the Daytona 500 pole qualifying at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific on Fox. And the Goodies Dash 200 on FX. You'll see that live. And then Sunday, NASCAR this morning gets you up going bright and early, followed by the Budweiser shootout. You saw Mike Joy and the guys talking about the pole position and the order for that. That's 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific on Fox, followed by NASCAR Victory Lane. But today, practicing, continuing for the Winston Cup cars. And let's go back upstairs. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip continue the play-by-play. Mike?
Thanks, Chris. No change in the top 10. We noted Johnny Benson busted in there with the 4th fastest speed so far.
You know how NASCAR loves parity. There's one model, each model in the top 5. There's a diversity there that nobody's dominating. Each car make has a car in the top 5.
One fellow who had a grim countenance earlier was Mark Martin, talking there with Jack Roush on the left, Jimmy Fennig on the right, and Dick Berggren in the midst of it.
Yeah, things aren't getting any better down here, Mike. They've just decided they're going to pull the plug on this practice session. They have arrived at the conclusion there is nothing more they can do. The car has been backed into the garage. The water is out of the engine. They're going to pull the motor, put the qualifying engine in, give it another try tomorrow morning. They're done for the day.
Is that just about the most depressing thing that can happen in the first hour of practice, to find out you've come down here and you don't have the right piece for what you need to run?
Yeah, well, one thing I know for sure that won't fix it is stand there with your arms folded. I know that won't fix it. But what happens is just what we talked about early in the show. You go to wind tunnel, you go to chassis dyno, you do your homework, you know what you got when you get here, and you hit the racetrack. It doesn't perform. So now what do we do? You come here loaded for bear. You come here with your best motor, your best car, your best everything. And if it won't run, boy, you're standing there scratching your head with your arms folded saying, where do we go from here? And you see Jack Roush is probably trying to answer that question.
You know, we talked about it in the beginning of the show. You know, these guys have been working for months on getting down here for this practice session. And I think what Mark Martin and Jimmy Fennig, the crew chief, has concluded is like, what are we going to change in the next few hours that's going to make this faster? Right. But I know Mark Martin, there you see him looking at the scoring monitor. He's seeing who's fast, where he's stacking up, and right now he's in 34th position. But I know Mark Martin, he's a racer, and he's not happy about what's going on right there, but he will work his guts out next week to make that car drive good, and he will be good when they start racing.
One confidence builder is, first of all, he knows he will be in the show. He's high enough in the points. He's got a provisional. No matter where he qualifies, probably he's going to be in the show. That takes a lot of pressure off of him. Put yourself in some of these other guys' position that don't have that luxury. You think Mark Martin's sad? Walk around and see some of the other guys that are not running well that don't have a luxury of a guaranteed provision.
Well, for every disappointment, there is a Cinderella story. And last year in the Daytona 500, that story was this driver, Johnny Benson. Let's go down to his car and Steve.
And Johnny Benson is about to make another practice run. Led 38 laps last year, Mike, in an unsponsored car. James Zentz is the crew chief. hey, the car's painted, uniforms are here. You guys are in good shape.
I tell you what, it's pretty exciting for us. This whole Valvoline team is very, very excited to have Valvoline on board to be with us this year. It's a whole lot different than it was last year.
James, you guys are in the top 5 right now, quickest cars. Are you surprised at where you are?
Well, we're a little bit surprised. We left the test, didn't think we was going to be this good. We went back, we worked awful hard on what we've got. We're trying to get qualified in the top 20 tomorrow. I think there's a lot of guys probably not showing what they've got right now, but we probably got a top 10 race car. We just have to wait and see.
James, give the viewer, the fan at home, a great sense of what you guys hope to accomplish today.
Well, today's more about just getting the bugs shaken out of everything, getting the car, you know, to where we know where it's going to be tomorrow. There's already so many unknowns when we built on a different restrictor plate tomorrow that we just want to eliminate a lot. We're looking for the last tenth of a second we can possibly get. You know, at Daytona, a tenth could be as much as 10, 12 spots. So we just make sure we crossed every T and dotted every I.
We'll let you go back to work. Thanks, James.
That team is different from every other one in the garage area in that the sponsor doesn't pay the team to put their decals on the car. They own half the team, and that's a first for our sport in many, many years.
It is, and you know, when things like that happen, it opens the eyes of a lot of people, and you never know, that might be the wave of the future.
Different way of doing business. Elliott Sadler, Jeff Burton, excuse me. Well, that's $1 in the pot right there. That's Jeff Burton, his new colors for the year 2001 in his Roush Racing number 99. We'll be back with more practice for the 43rd annual Daytona 500 live on Fox Sports Net after this. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Jeff Burton down on the apron completes a run. And here's Jack Roush, number 99. Bobby Labonte going by, the Winston Cup champ. And for the first time today, we've got cars out side by side. There's a brace of Earnhardt.
Let me tell you something. I've watched these two cats right here, senior and junior. Every time they go out, they get in each other's way. Now, is that by design? I don't think so, but it just seems to be happening that way. And I know one of them's getting a little ticked.
Well, the one that's going to be ticked is Dale Earnhardt Jr. because his last lap, you can throw it away. It's no good. Now, I think Dale Sr. and the 3 cars just getting started on his run, so it didn't affect him near as much. But, hey, Darrell, we're down to about 5 minutes. It's like chaos out there now. They're basically in 6, 7 car drafts out there. You're not learning anything right now.
No, not really. I think they're just running their cars now. They get the oil hot or something.
Dale Jr. is 10th fastest, and Earnhardt has climbed from 33rd now to 17th quickest on the chart.
He did that with Dale Jr.'s help. Dale Jr. didn't mean to help him. He just got some help.
Bobby Labonte making a run. The 2-car Joe Gibbs team just seems to get stronger and stronger every year.
They're going to be so good all year long, just like they were last year. Bobby's on top of his game. Make car's good. They got a good car. They're going to be another great year.
He's sitting 39th. Darrell, I will eat this microphone if he's 39th tomorrow. There is no way. They are the best in the business at laying in the weeds.
Oh, yeah. He'll in the top 5 probably.
Kyle Petty is 41st on the chart, and it's interesting that the 44 car from Petty Enterprises, Buckshot Jones, is 22nd, and the 43 car with John Andretti is 6th fastest.
And if I'm Kyle's crew chief, it's like, come in. We're not learning nothing.
That makes you so angry that if you wasn't just practicing, you'd want to put the bumper to that guy. And I don't even know who that guy is, but they're not, you know, both guys' runs is ruined. I mean, you can't learn a thing.
They're wasting fuel and tires.
Well, plus Kyle's teammates have both beaten the boss in practice so far. That's Brett Bodine in front of Kyle.
I think if we stayed on them all the way through, we'd see those two talking to each other in the garage.
Now they're going to put a good number up here before practice is over.
Well, that's what you finally realize. Well, I'll get me a good lap.
Mike Wallace and Bobby Labonte. Well, let's talk a little more about setup and about what's going on under the skin of these cars down in the garage area. Jeff Hammond has de-skinned one.
Yeah, guys, what I've done, I've moved out here to this car where we kind of tell the folks at home what's kind of going on. Earlier today, we were talking to Robert Yates, and Robert said he was car number 28 was not getting off the corner like it needed to. It was actually getting maybe a little too much air as it exited the corner, which will slow the car down as it goes down the back straightaway or the front straightaway. Things that the guys will be looking at trying to do is getting the car closer to the ground. And the way they do that is they can take the front springs and go to a softer front springs. And you can see here, this is like a 2,200-pound spring. This is a 600-pound spring. You can drop the rate way down on these cars and put it closer to the ground by doing that. Also, front sway bars. This is like a 1-inch bar. This is a 2-inch bar. And what this allows the guys to do is to keep the car from rolling over as it comes off the corner. And as Larry alluded to, and Darrell will tell you, if to make the car go faster, you've got to get it on the racetrack. You've got to get it down there low and hold that attitude. The attitude is the main thing about making these cars run at Daytona. You don't have enough horsepower, so you got to make the car do all it can with the low amount of horsepower the cars have underneath the engine. So it's very important that you work on the chassis. And during this break between the next practice, a lot of guys will be making these changes to try to make their cars better.
Maybe this is part of the frustration that Jack Roush and Mark Martin have. They can't change the internal parts in that engine between now and the next practice. They can't change the aerodynamics of the shape of the body. They've got to work with the tools that Jeff is showing us and the things that they can adjust to make the car better.
They can change the whole motor, but pretty much the motors they've got. But you saw right there that Dale Jarrett in the 88 car, when he come off turn 2 there, his car was nice and flat. And we've just learned this over the last few years. You soften the front springs to get it close to the ground. You put that big old anti-roll bar up in there to keep it nice and flat. See, the car don't hardly roll at all. And the bottom, the black part that's taped up, it's hugging that ground.
Yeah, what the other thing we're going to get into a little later, I think, Jeff, is the shocks. And the shocks are like, think about a turnbuckle. And a turnbuckle, you just turn it, and then you want to hold the front end of the car as steady as you can and as low as you can. And they do a lot of that with the soft springs and then add the shocks to the combination.
Dale Jarrett hard at work. Third fastest in these 2 hours of Winston Cup practice. As you look at the speeds in the next hour, the Goodies Dash cars will take to the track. And we'll have down on the set some of the Winston Cup drivers fresh from this morning practice session to talk about how things went. As our Fox Sports Net coverage of the first day of Winston Cup practice at Daytona rolls on. There's a look at the time so far. We'll have much more for you in our next hour coming after the break. You're watching NASCAR at Daytona on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway as Fox Sports Net brings you the opening day of Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500. In the waning moments of this practice session, a lot of cars on track and the draft aiding many in posting their best speeds of the day, including now 5th place Sterling Marlin. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
But the real story of the day is right here, Mike Joy. The number 4 of Robbie Gordon running all by himself, not in a pack, not in a draft. So far, he has the fastest lap. Let's go to Steve Burns.
Well, Dick, you know, a Dodge hasn't been to victory lane in the NASCAR races. The late, great Neil Bonnet did it at Ontario, California in 1977. But Dodge is back, and they're fast. We'll talk to one of the pilots coming up here in just a second. Matt?
Well, you're exactly right, Steve. Stacey Compton, the 22 of Ward Burton, and the 40 sneaking into the top 5. But also another guy to keep your eye on during the rest of Speed Weeks, obviously Steve Park. They were one of the strongest cars here in Daytona during winter testing, about 4.5 to 5/10 off what they turned in during that test. So they obviously need to work a little more to find that speed they've lost. Now let's go to Jeannie.
Well, working and having fun, because this is definitely a dream come true for the 22-year-old rookie, Kurt Busch, who actually made his way out onto the track. Thumbs up, a lot of excitement. Just a couple of laps and he came back, but he's very excited to be here at Daytona. Promising season, he says, as does everybody we talked to today. And of course, Ricky Craven, and getting his first full-time ride since '97, trying to make a good impression, even though just practice laps out here so far, trying to make a good impression on his team and show everybody that he is healthy and that he will make it through a whole season with this ride. Chris?
The red and black flags are in the wind. That signifies the end of the first 2 hours of Winston Cup practice, but we have lots more coming at you, including the Goodies Dash Series cars, and interviews from down on the set with our NASCAR on Fox host, Chris Myers.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. And we're just a couple of hours through 43 hours of coverage and up to including the 43rd running of the Daytona 500, which you'll see on Fox. We, of course, will have coverage throughout 21 consecutive weeks of racing. You'll see NASCAR covered like it's never been covered before on Fox Sports Net, FX, and Fox, as we will constantly be updating things throughout the week. We welcome in this segment Jeff Hammond, of course, you've heard through the broadcast, former crew chief, and also Ken Squire to lend a little perspective on things. Gentlemen, your thoughts on what we've seen so far as we gear up for the Daytona 500. But let's take a look back at what's taken place over the first couple of hours. See everybody back for practice. Jeff Gordon, of course, and when I spoke to him on Media Day, said he expected to be in a top 5 or top 10 position once it came to actually qualifying for the Daytona 500. The new paint scheme with the flames. And we welcome Dodge back to NASCAR. Bill Elliott in the number 9 car, teaming with Casey Atwood. They will be a factor here as Elliott hit the practice course today. Last year's Winston Cup champ Bobby Labonte, his brother Terry ran into a little trouble early with an oil leak. They fixed that. Everything is fine now. The fastest time, though, so far, belonging to Robbie Gordon at just over 182 miles per hour, as Robbie Gordon finding the track comfortable, ideal weather conditions, little wind on this first day of practice for Winston Cup cars. A surprise here, second fastest car, a Dodge driven by Stacy Compton, as we get a look at the times so far. And you see Jeff Hammond, a mixture of cars at that top, following Gordon at Stacy Compton, Dale Jarrett, Ward Burton, and Sterling Marlin.
Well, Chris, you talk about parity. I think NASCAR ought to be happy. Chevrolet, Dodge, Ford, Dodge. I mean, that's what they've been looking for, is to try to get Dodge back in the mix. But where are the Pontiacs?
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Right now, Robbie Gordon with the fastest time. We go to Dick Berggren, who's standing by with Robbie Gordon.
Oh, thanks, Chris. A little bit of tension in this garage area. It's been a while since Robbie Gordon has won a pole, almost 4 years ago in Atlanta, March 1997. What do you think? Do it here at Daytona?
I don't know. Larry McClure and everybody here on the race team did a really good job preparing for this race. So, you know, if all the stars align and moons align, tomorrow we'll be in pretty good shape. But I'm pretty excited with the Kodak car right now.
Anything you're going to do to this race car to try to pick it up?
Oh, yeah, we're trying things. We actually tried one thing that slowed us down, so we knew that wasn't the direction to go. We picked it back up right at the end of the session on new tires. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We're going to have to find some more because obviously the competition has a day and a half to catch up. But as long as we keep advancing like we did from the last test here at Daytona to now, we'll be okay.
Well, the mechanics are all over this race car trying to find still more speed. Steve.
Dick, Stacy Compton's been moving so fast, we had to run to catch up with him last time, but finally he's standing still because practice is over. Stacy, you guys are hauling the mail.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, hats off to these guys with Kodiak, Mellon, Dodge. Put in a lot of hours, back at the shop, so when we did come here and unload, hopefully we would be pretty good. And, you know, we had a number in mind that we wanted to run when we unloaded, and we're pretty close to it. So it's not quite as quick as what I thought it was going to be. You know, which the day isn't over with yet, and I don't think everybody's showing what they've got still. Tomorrow will tell a tale, but we're pretty happy with it right now.
Stacy, when you woke up this morning, did you think you would be second fastest at the end of the first practice?
Well, I mean, we knew we had an awful good car here in testing. We went to Talladega and tested really well. We felt like if we could come back and be close to where we were when we left, we would be pretty good. So whether we were going to be second or not, I don't know. But we sure hope to unload and be good, and we unloaded pretty good.
I'll say good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, this is Mark Martin, by the way, one of the guys very disappointed, and he was saying that, you know, you can't really change. You can change a lot here this first day of practice, but you can't really improve a lot. And Jeff Hammond, this is not the first time that these drivers, it's first day of Winston Cup practice, obviously, for qualifying in the Daytona 500, but they've been on this track before.
Oh, yeah. All these teams have been down here earlier practicing as far as testing is concerned. But right now, what has happened is they've come back, and a lot of the guys who had run really quick, as far as Rusty Wallace, he was the fastest guy down here earlier during testing, followed by Kurt Busch. Well, all of a sudden, they're not at the top of the leaderboard, and the speeds are down. And everybody's saying, well, what's wrong? What's going on here? A lot of these times do reflect a drafting situation. And that's the reason why the speeds are so much faster. But today, if you'll look, it's almost 5 miles an hour slower than what it was during testing earlier. So these are honest laps, what you're seeing Robbie Gordon, Stacy Compton, and Dale Jarrett turn. So therefore, it shows the importance of getting clean air and making sure you don't have a drafting partner. You know what I'm saying, Ken?
Absolutely. I was wondering if perhaps the Compton line around this track had been flawed a little. There were some cars nearer to him, but we heard earlier in our Fox reports that indeed that particular run that he made at the second fastest time of the morning was legit and clean with only about 3 cars on the track.
Yeah, you know, drafting, we know about it, but tell us about explain for us clearly what that is exactly and why maybe we're not seeing that in full effect here in today's Winston Cup practice.
The new package, Chris, that NASCAR's implemented to try to make the racing better has a much more larger effect on drafting than ever before because of the roof rail on top and the way the rear spoiler is configured. It's actually punching a bigger hole. If you take a boat wake, for example, if you got a boat that is very large, it creates a big wake of air. Same thing with these race cars. They punch a big hole in the air, and if you get in a situation where you get behind a car that's in front of you, all of a sudden the air has less effect on your car than the guy in front, so therefore you suck up easier. The car can run through the air so much faster. So anytime you break the air, I don't care if you're at the back of the very end of the straightaway here, coming off of turn 2 and the guy's going in turn 4, it can have an effect on your car.
Yeah, do you think that we'll see some different change in the times in the afternoon for any reason, or will we see the same kind of results?
I believe the same results will come up again, but once we go toward the end of practice again, it's going to be total chaos out there on pit road again. I've seen it before where crew members will literally jump out in front of cars coming down pit road to try to block them because everybody gets in a hurry. We talked about it earlier. It's a gentleman's agreement. Well, about that time, all bets are off, and there's no gentleman because you got to get a run in.
All right, more on the first day of Winston Cup practice here at Daytona 500 with Jeff Hammond and Ken Squire. I'm Chris Myers. You're watching our break in between practice sessions. When we come back here live at Daytona, Michael Waltrip will be joining us to talk about how things went for him so far and how he plans to attack this season and the Daytona 500. You're watching Daytona 500 coverage and NASCAR coverage on Fox Sports Net. 43 hours leading you up to the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. Don't go away. Fox Sports Net's coverage of Speed Weeks in just 9 days until the running of the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. You'll see it and hear it on Fox at a big weekend, part of our nonstop coverage, 43 hours up until the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. Tomorrow, the Winston Cup practice sessions, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific at Fox Sports Net. Then the qualifying for the pole of the 500, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific on Fox. And the Goodies Dash 200, you'll see it live on FX. Then Sunday, NASCAR this morning gets things going early at 10 o'clock Eastern. The Budweiser Shootout should be exciting. Not only the pole winners from last year, but of course previous pole winners. Dale Earnhardt in that as well. And you're looking now live as the Goodies Dash practice continues. We're in between the Winston Cup practice sessions and taking a break. Robbie Gordon with the best time so far. Dale Jarrett's trying to win his 4th Daytona 500. Only 2 have won more. Richard Petty with 7 Daytona 500s, Cale Yarborough with 3, Bobby Allison with 3, and Dale Jarrett, of course, the defending champ, with 3. There's just something about the Daytona 500. It isn't called the Great American Race for nothing. Every driver knows that and feels that.
It's the most tense time you'll ever have in your life. Everybody's tense. People say you got to be relaxed. You can't be relaxed at 200 miles an hour when you got people 2 and 3 inches away from you.
Daytona is very difficult to drive. It's hard to get your car to handle well. And with the new rules that we have now, you're going to see 3-wide racing. This racetrack is not made for 3-wide racing. It's not wide enough.
The best way to say it is just it's going to look like we're out of control and all over the racetrack. But if you're sitting in the car and going down the straightaway to the backstretch of Daytona and you look up and everything's fine, you got a guy in your mirror and 1 in front of you and 2 or 3 on each side of you, and there's no room for error.
A lot of history and tradition. Lee Petty, of course, won the first Daytona 500 back in 1959. Ken Squire, Jeff Hammond. Ken, you've seen 36 Daytona 500s. How does this race separate the men from the boys?
Well, it separates the men from the boys because that it is the Daytona 500. It's not just this single event. It is this place. It is Daytona. which makes such a difference. It's not since 1959. It's not the 43rd. It's 100 years. It's 1902 when they first came to the beach with Willie K. Vanderbilt, some of the gang up here at Ormond, ran down the beach. And historically, the tribes have gathered ever since here at the birthplace of speed, Daytona Beach. This is where Seagraves ran 200 miles an hour down this beach. So it has always meant something special. And at this time, there's no other racing in America. All we snowbirds come down here to enjoy this great weather and to be with our friends. And they come from all the sanctioning bodies, from everything that's going on. And surrounding Daytona at this time are short tracks running super modifieds and sprint cars and lots of action.
February in Florida, and I am amazed at all of the other racing activity aside from that great American race. But Jeff Hammond, you won as the crew chief in 1989 with Darrell Waltrip as your driver, and that probably has to be beat the feeling of any other feeling. I know when I see the clip of Darrell Waltrip keep shaking, everybody says, did I win it? I finally won it. It's that kind of feeling that not everybody gets to experience in auto racing, but it's what they aim for.
It is. I've said before, I wish everybody out there in America could understand what it feels to watch your car run around the Daytona Beach Speedway here, and also to take the checkered flag. I mean, we've won some other little races here, the 125s, and we've run the Budweiser shootout type situation. It was called a Busch Clash back then. But to win Daytona, to be able to wear one of these rings and say you have beat the best and won your Super Bowl, there's nothing else you can remotely, try to say about it. The Great American Race is the best thing you've ever said about this whole situation. It is so great. It's so wonderful.
Well, it is the American race. There are other races that these days have a lot of foreign manufacture, but this is where Bill France really showed his stuff, was here at Daytona, because he understood the romance of the car for the American public, and the sense that if you didn't know a single driver out here in this race, on this racetrack, you could still cheer for a Ford or a Chevy, and God bless Dodge for coming back.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
You almost have to call it magic. It's like when you come in to the beach and when you drive through the tunnel and come inside the racetrack, it's like you're going into a different world. Everybody here is just kind of like going to Disney World almost. It's such a magical place.
And it goes from the smell of the ocean to the smell of engines burning. 6 prior Daytona 500 winners practicing today. 11 wins among those 6 drivers as we continue with Ken Squire and Jeff Hammond. We're live in Daytona. We mentioned Michael Waltrip. Matt Kenseth is on his way up. The Rookie of the Year last year, ready to roll this year. He'll talk about his practicing today in a moment. Welcome back to live coverage. The first day of Winston Cup practice as we gear up for the Daytona 500. Right now we're in a break. The second session going in just a little bit, but let's continue to look at some of the times from earlier today. Dale Earnhardt, of course, who also owns the Michael Waltrip car. We'll be talking with Michael in just a moment, posting a good time there. Dave Marcus, who has had the most runs at Daytona 500 without winning the actual race. Ricky Rudd posting a time, Jeff Hammond, of just over 179.
Yeah, I'm really surprised with that right there. But as Robert Yates was talking about earlier, I think they'll be looking at probably some photographs of that car. Robert will also be down there working with Michael McSwain to probably get that car, as far as the chassis set up, to get it around the corner and off the corner and down the straightaway. He'll pick up.
Bobby Labonte, defending Winston Cup champ at just over 179 miles per hour. Mike Wallace.
I'm really surprised about Bobby, too, but a lot of these guys are going to be changing engines, so let's don't forget that. They'll be changing engines, so they'll get an opportunity to pick up. All
right, we welcome in Michael Waltrip, who I have to point out went 462 starts and is yet to capture that Winston Cup win, but he's in blue. He looks sharp, and he's got Earnhardt as his owner in a whole new outlook. And actually posting, as we showed earlier before you came up here, the 6th, the fastest time in the morning round. So obviously things went well for you.
Yeah, it was a good practice. We were real pleased. Testing went good during the off-season. We knew we would have a car that could run fast when we got back here, and indeed this morning when we got all of our stuff together, it ran good.
All right, with Earnhardt, this is obviously you're in good hands here, and would this give you, in your mind, the best chance to win in a long time?
Oh, it's definitely a great opportunity for me. Dale's teams won races last year. They have all the resources, all the parts and pieces to do the job with. I'm going with a team that is a winner right now, and so I feel like I can win in 2001 and will win in 2001, and I can't honestly say I've gone into a season lately feeling that way. Every time I come to Daytona for the 500, I think I'll be a factor. I think I can get my car in a position to win the race. And that's even more so this year with a car that is as fast as my Napa Chevrolet is.
And the reputation, so more optimism. Let's take a look at the morning run and off to a good start. So mentally and obviously the numbers are proving out.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen my little hot rod there coming off the turn. Look at the attitude. Jeff was talking about they'll take pictures of the cars and look at the cars. Right. What you have to do is get that front as low as you can without that back being hiked up in the air. The 88 car is running good, so they know what attitude it's at. They'll try to adjust the 28 to match that attitude and get their cars as fast. Teamwork or else technology shared among the teams is more important here at Daytona than
any other.
And I'm experiencing it maybe for the first time. I didn't realize how important it is. We go out and run, we tweak on our car, and Parks guys come over and say, what y'all do to pick up? And we tell them, and then they run good, and we do the same thing. And the engineers and the computers that we have assisting us when we test, we know exactly where that car's pitch is, where it wants to be when it has these springs in it, where it is with this spring in it. And so we're able to move those cars around and adjust them. And these cars nowadays, it seems to me, as I ramble on.
That's all right. You could get Daryl's job if you keep this up.
These cars these days, it seems to me, when you build them, the basic shape of them, the shell of the car, it's hard to make it much faster once you've done that with panels and changing the bodies. What it all is about is getting that shell right and then getting those springs and shocks under the car to get it down on the ground and get through these corners, these bumpy corners, and make the best time. I don't think it has a whole lot to do with pop riveting things on the side of them. I don't think NASCAR can mess them up that much in the tech room anymore.
Oh, yes, I think you'd be surprised, Michael. But probably what would really be nice as far as the driver's concerned would be like having an airplane where you could take the flaps on the car and just kind of tune it around a little bit till you find it where it trims itself out and go down the straightaway. Because what you're talking about is so important. You've got to be able to make the cars run down the straightaway incredibly fast, but they've got to stay hugging the racetrack through the corners. Otherwise, when the air gets up underneath them, it just slows them down. It's just like a drag chute. And Michael's talking about guys working together. I hope you got yourself in a situation with a teammate and teammates going to make you get in victory lane.
I think that's for sure. Me and Park played golf yesterday, and as of going into our first race together, and you never seen me cutting line in front of either one of them down here as we're going out on the racetrack. As of going into our first race together, we are getting along great. And I know about my brother will speak about teammates.
Yeah, speaking of getting along, and your brother from the broadcast booth, let's bring in Darryl Waltrip, of course, the brother of Michael Waltrip. Darryl, would you like to join in to say hi to Michael?
Well, Michael needs to learn to make a long story short. It's a little late for that, but maybe next time. Mike, let me ask you something. We're brothers. You grew up alongside of me. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, when you were a little kid going to races with me, think that, first of all, all his heroes were Petty and those guys. I'm just his brother. But did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that, first of all, you live with the Pettys for a while and ultimately drive for Dale Earnhardt? Did that ever cross your mind as a young guy?
Well, none of this really ever crossed my mind, Darryl. I so much, he's wrong about one thing. I was a fan of Darryl Waltrip. When I was a kid, you couldn't come in as a 10-year-old and wander up and down pit road. Women and children basically weren't allowed back then to get in the garage as much as they are now. And so I grew up learning what Darryl was doing and learning about NASCAR racing, hanging from a fence, watching from afar. And,
white knuckles.
And I just wanted to be a part of it so bad. I wanted to race. And then finally I got my opportunity to race, and I said, what if I'm not any good at it? Then that's really not going to be any fun because it's all I've ever wanted to do. But then I started racing my first go-kart race. I won. Darryl was there and watched it, and I progressed into the local track and won the championship, and on into the Dash Series, won the NASCAR Dash Series championship. And at that point in time, if you had told me I wasn't going to be the next combination of Richard Petty and Mario Andretti, I would have told you were crazy. I won every race I was in. I knew what I was doing. And since then, as you guys have already figured out, I thought maybe the new network, this stat wouldn't have got passed down, but I've gone on a little bit of a skid. And
just a little bit.
My old buddy Dale Earnhardt is very much intent on changing all that, and it's just been a great off season and preparing for this opportunity.
And it's a testament to your, I guess, fortitude to hang in there with this. You, of course, the Dash Goodies race, a part of that. They're on the track now practicing for that as we're in between the practice sessions. Talk about that race, which will be seen on FX Live tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern.
Those cars have evolved a lot since I drove them. They had 4-cylinder engines back then and little tires. Now they got V6s and they got some big tires on them. But you will not see a better race than the Dash Series race. Some sometimes they get a little carried away and wind up running over each other, which we're liable to see that on the Daytona 500 too. That's not a slap against those guys, but they're young and experienced. But man, I've seen some good drafting passes to the finish of these races in the Dash Series, and I sat on the pole in '83 and led every lap except for the last 3, and then qualified bad in '84 and got in the lead late and broke. I've had some tough luck in the race here at Daytona, but I've always enjoyed the Dash cars here.
All right, and we look forward to hopefully you capturing that first Winston Cup victory, and ran 3 marathons this year, so the guy can handle the long runs. Thank you, Michael Waltrip, for being with us. A quick timeout, and we'll be coming back with Kyle Petty as we continue live coverage from Daytona. Don't go away.
Chicago's greatest athletes.
And welcome back, Fox Racing on Fox Sports Net, part of our 43 hours of coverage up to the running of the 43rd Daytona 500. You're going to look live at the Goodies Dash Series, the practice session, the actual race tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, which you will see live on FX as you get a broader view of the track. This is the lineup. Winston Cup practice at 8:30 Eastern on Fox Sports Net. And then, of course, the pole qualifying for the Daytona 500, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 Pacific on Fox, the mothership where you'll see the race a week from Sunday, and the Goodies Dash 200, as we mentioned, live at 4:30 Eastern. That's on FX. Then on Sunday, NASCAR this morning starts you off bright and early at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Fox Sports Net. Then flip over to Fox for the Budweiser Shootout. Ken Schrader on the pole. That was done by draw. That's at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific. And NASCAR Victory Lane at 9 o'clock Eastern time on Fox Sports Net closes things out. And we welcome in special guest Kyle Petty with us as Dodge returns to the NASCAR scene. He was 14th in the morning practice session, just over 181 miles per hour. And you actually won your very first stock car race, I guess it was more than 20 years ago, in a Dodge Magnum here at this track.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning. I said, I challenge anybody in America to go out and find a Dodge Magnum sitting in a parking lot somewhere, because I just think we had the only one as a race car. But yeah, we were very blessed. We came down here and ran fairly well and ended up winning.
Well, the Petty name obviously synonymous with Dodge, and that will sell Dodges regardless of how fast things start. But how about it? We heard somebody say, hey, the Dodge people were faking about when we saw some of the early times out here, at least in practicing.
You know, I think we made the announcement last year that Bill Davis Racing and Petty Enterprises was part of the Dodge program. We did it right out here in Victory Lane. And at that time, we had a year to go. And I think between Ray Evernham and Dodge and those other groups, we worked extremely hard. We got to Daytona, and we were behind as a group. And I think we all went home and cut up some cars and did a lot of work and just kept plugging at it, whereas some of the other guys said, oh, man, I was pretty fast when I went there. I didn't do anything. So for the last 2 weeks, we've been working pretty hard.
Well, Kyle, you weren't totally happy with your practice, but when you sat down a minute ago, you were talking about you guys do have a plan.
Yeah, we have a plan. You know, we took Buckshot's car, the Georgia Pacific car, the 44 car, and we took John's car, the Cheerios car, and we took our car, and we took block-offs, throwing timing at them, throwing some qualifying oil in them, some different springs, some different shocks, and we said, okay, you guys take these 3 things, we'll take these 3 things, and the 44 can take these 3 things, and then we'll come back tonight, we'll sit down, we'll evaluate what was good, what was bad, and then tomorrow morning in the 8 o'clock practice, we'll all throw the most we've got at it. So for us, no matter where we end up today, I don't think that's indicative of where we're going to be as a group. I think we're going to have to come back tomorrow morning, throw everything at one car or at all the cars, and then we'll know better where we're at.
Kyle, when Petty Engineering had Herschel McGriff with you, was that a 3-car team back in those days?
Off and on, that was a 3-car team. But you have to go back to, the late 40s, early 50s. My grandfather would drag 5 or 6 cars to the racetrack. So, but everybody did at that point in time.
So as far as this 3-car team for you, and you're really heading this thing up, a lot more difficulty, a lot harder?
Yes and no. I think it's pretty difficult to run 3 cars. I think for me, the 45 car, obviously, because it was Adam's car, is more of a labor of love than it is anything else. So I kind of take it out of the equation a little bit. I still look at it. We have a philosophy at Petty Enterprises. We like to look at ourselves as a single team. We just happen to be running 3 cars. We don't look at it as a 3-car team like a lot of other teams do. So everything we do as one unit, as one group, with one goal in mind, and that's to go out and perform and win races, whether it's a 43, 44, or 45. But like I say, because of Adam's deal, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and part of 4 generations of Petty's, and mentioning the loss of Adam, can you talk for a moment about yourself and just your return full-time to this, given that situation, and how difficult or a form of motivation that might be?
No, I think it has been difficult. It was difficult to come here because we did the Dodge deal because of Adam. That was the main goal in going there, was to give Adam the same opportunity that Richard Petty had with Dodge all those years. So, you know, we felt like at the end of his career he would be associated with Dodge just like my father was. But, you know, obviously that didn't work out. But for me, to carry on the 45 car, I've said it from the very beginning, as long as that car is 45 and has Sprint on the side of it, it's Adam's car. I'm just filling in for him. And it's been difficult at times. It was difficult coming through the tunnel and knowing that he wasn't going to be here running the Winston Cup race this year. But at the same time, there's a little bit of motivation to go out and say, hey, if this car can win races, and we know we gave Adam everything we had.
That's what he would have wanted.
The tradition of Daytona, this speedway, is petty. With your grandfather, with your first win in 1979, that first race you ever drove, and you won the ARCA event, those wins by your dad, your pole here in '93. Daytona, what does it mean to Kyle Petty?
To me, you know, we've come down here so many times and gone back with a trophy in the back seat of a car. It's phenomenal to think of the amount of times that Petty Enterprises as a team has come down here with Richard Petty or with Buddy Baker or with Pete Hamilton or with Lee Petty and some of the great drivers that have driven for him, and we've won this race. So for us, this is the big race. You know, my father used to make sure that all the decals were straight and everything was right and everybody looked good. This was his main deal. So for us as a family, it's almost like a family reunion. Coming back to Daytona is a part of our family.
Yeah, your best finish 6th back in '92 and had the pole in '93 in the Daytona 500. Thanks for stopping by with us. Good luck. It's good to have you and Dodge back in action.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate Kyle Petty being with us, with Jeff Hammond, Ken Squire, Chris Myers live from Daytona. We'll continue as the Winston Cup practice session will continue in the afternoon at the top of the hour as Joe Gibbs and Bobby Labonte a little disappointed with their morning session. They'll go in.
There's sports.
Yeah, welcome back. We're live in Daytona, the Goodies Dash practice run going as we are in between Winston Cup cars and their practice sessions. Let's check out the in-progress results so far from the Goodies Dash series. Johnny Chapman, your leader. Jeff Hammond, what else catches your attention?
Oh, just looking down that list right there, and the number 9 spot, that Christian Elder. He's always been a very, strong competitor in this field.
Checking some of the other results, Wayne Edwards just over 161 miles per hour. Danny Bagwell, you got Tim Nichols, Doc Brewer.
Larry Codell, he's a former champion in this division, so he'll probably be tough tomorrow.
And Joey Miller, Mike Watts rounding out the practice session in progress with the Goodies Dash series. Remember, you can see the Goodies Dash race 4:30 Eastern tomorrow. That's 4:30 Saturday on FX. If you don't get that on your cable system, ask for it. Part of Fox and Fox Sports Net's continuing coverage, Fox Racing, NASCAR through the first half of the season. Your one-stop place for racing. For more on the Goodies Dash race, let's join now Matt Yoakum.
And Chris, Michael Waltrip spoke earlier about the Dash Series, a series in which he got his start in NASCAR competition. Another young man, Shane Meal, son of former Winston Cup crew chief Steve Meal, over here in the garage area at this moment, conferring with his son. They developed a miss during the session. Before that, they had trouble with their transmission. It kept getting stuck in third gear. They had the transmission out. Shane was beating on it with a hammer and screwdriver, taking bits and pieces apart, trying to get it to unlodge. But, this is a division where a number of people have started their racing careers. Larry Pearson, the late Robbie Moroso. A lot of guys using this subcompact 6-cylinder series. You see a shot of Shane looking at his engine. And they've used this division to make their way to Busch Series and Truck Series and even on to Winston Cup competition. Another guy, Andy Lally, is making his first stock car appearance in this division this weekend. He won his division in the 24-hour race and was able to get a ride for the Dash and qualified deep in the field, but he was 4th fastest in the happy hour session. And guess what? He has never gone into turn 1 from the straightaway. He's always hung the big hard left, the local route, as the road racers call it, through the infield. So this is going to be a very exciting session for him in this Goodies Dash Series race. Chris?
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Part of the racing weekend is the Budweiser Shootout. It was formerly the Busch Clash, the Bud Shootout, and there's some different rules this year. It's 70 laps. Also, the previous pole winners from last year, of course, but previous winners overall. So names like Dale Earnhardt are in as we take a look. And remember, you'll see this race on Fox Live. So let's take a look at the The starting lineup you see on the pole, Ken Schrader, and this
two-time winner of this event.
And this was done by draw, of course. Dale Jarrett, Mark Martin, another one who would not have been in there, right? Based
out of the top 4 guys, you know, you've got 3 of them were not really past winners as far as pole winners last year, but were able to get in because they've won this race before.
And what's really interesting about this race is that Bill Elliott, as a past champion, is going to put a Dodge in the show. Didn't see any Dodges out there racing last year, but with this past champion commitment to it, we're going to get a chance to see what one of those cars will do. And the interesting thing to me, as we look at this starting grid all the way back to Ted Musgrave, who was the draw out of the second round of qualifying, the interesting thing to me is you're going to run 70 laps, 175 miles. And Jeff Hammond, this change, you know, I loved the old race. I just loved it. It was the old Saturday night 20-lap, turn them around, watch Earnhardt cut through the whole field in one lap like the last time he won this thing. But now this is a real test, and there has to be a green flag pit stop in this event, this Budweiser race on Sunday here on Fox.
It's one of the first times, Ken, that I've heard any of the crew chiefs and the drivers say, I'm glad I'm in this race. Normally, the guys have always complained about having to come down with an extra car to run this kind of bogus race, as they called them. It was always a good thing for your sponsor, but it's very much a hardship on the crews and the drivers. But now, this right here is basically an extra 125 for a lot of these guys, so they get an opportunity to try some race setups and get an opportunity to get ahead of the rest of the competition.
And Chris, the only old-timer that's not in the race is the guy that won it in '81, that guy Walter. I guess Jeff Bodine's not here.
Yeah, well, that guy, well, he has other work to do. Busy this week. But Rusty Wallace is somebody, when I talked to him on media day, he said he didn't like this new arrangement. He said it's more work, that it's a non-points event, obviously. But yet Jeff Gordon said, hey, I like this. This is going to be one of the more fun races, and fans will enjoy this.
I think so, and it pays $200,000 to win, so come on.
That's the most it's ever been, I think, put up for this particular race. I mean, it makes it worthwhile making the effort to do. So, talk to Jimmy Finnick, Mark Martin's crew chief. He's excited about it because he gets an opportunity to try something that he wouldn't normally get an opportunity to do in a field that's very, very competitive.
And you know, Chris, one of the things that you've been discussing here with us while we've been off camera a bit is this business of drafting. And this is where we're really going to see if what NASCAR has committed themselves to is really going to work. You've got 18 cars in this event. This is a big field for this Budweiser shootout, and we're going to get an opportunity to really see how things are going to work for the following Sunday in the Great American Race.
And one other thing, a little conversation we had with Kyle Petty, he made a comment about the fact that a lot of the Dodgers haven't had an opportunity to draft. Yes. So therefore, Bill Elliott and Ray Evernham are going to get a golden opportunity to get some laps under their belt and get an idea what the Dodge is all about. And you can believe one thing, the rest of the Dodge contingent will be watching.
Well, this Budweiser shootout in the past has always been exciting because it had a different, unique format. But the fact that there are so many unknowns this year as we go into this race, this 23rd Budweiser shootout on Sunday, I think is the tip-off. And it's not just a little taste. This is a good bite as to what we're going to see in the 500.
And it will be fun to watch. It's an all-star lineup, and that's why they call it a shootout, the Budweiser shootout, and you can see it live on Fox, 2 o'clock Eastern on Sunday, 11 o'clock Pacific. More practicing for this tomorrow, and we will have highlights of that and keep you updated as well. Joe Gibbs was successful, of course, in the NFL when he won 3 Super Bowls, but obviously what he did last year with Bobby Labonte on the mark of consistency in winning the Winston Cup points total, and has a shot this year with Tony Stewart to go back-to-back. And let's take a look at the Joe Gibbs success. Consistency, that's what he's all about. Labonte, look at it was amazing as Tony Stewart actually had more wins last year in the Winston Cup racing, but look at that DNF. That's something, Jeff, yeah, that is the important thing, and that consistency is something that Bobby Labonte said he felt throughout and is hoping to repeat. And how does Joe Gibbs, Jeff, keep his guys in such good shape?
Well, I think one thing, he has created an atmosphere over there at Gibbs Racing that is unlike anybody else in racing right now. He's got guys that are wanting to stay there and work the extra hours and do what's necessary to be a championship contender, to win races. And that's unheard of. A lot of times when you win a championship, everybody's brother is lined up to try to steal anybody from your floor sweeper, your truck driver, your mechanics, your shop guy. They try to go in there and raid your championship team to make their teams better. Last year, nobody left. So therefore, that team as a whole, I mean, it's together. It's ready to go racing, and it's going to be a force to reckon with.
You know, Chris, Bobby Labonte knows the system. He really knows how to make this thing work, and he is so consistent. And that's what his brother Terry did when he won those championships as well. Now, you take a look at Tony Stewart, and here's a winner. Here's a guy that's won in Silver Crown, in midgets, and sprints. And it took him a little while to learn to win. He's got that down, as you can see. Now to win the championship, it's a little different style than what he's used to. He's still a Charger. He still likes to spend his Saturday night somewhere watching the World of Outlaws, and you can't get that out of him. Well, but he's come a long way in just 2 years. Right. And 2 years ago, he sat on the pole here for the on the outside of the front row for the 500.
Last year, Ken, Tony Stewart's 6 wins were more than any other Winston Cup driver. And I've heard him talk about, Jeff, that he's more mature and a little more patient. He knows he's not there yet, but I think that's part of what makes him a fun driver to watch or to keep an eye on is that attitude. And how much has he changed in your opinion?
Oh, well, he's changed a ton in my opinion. I had a conversation with him just the other day, and he was very candid about the fact that Joe Gibbs has changed his whole outlook on life, basically. He's learned how to be more patient and understand that sometimes flying off the handle and being basically a stick of dynamite don't always get you where you want to go. And Bobby Labonte has also been very much a mentor to him to learn how to deal with the pressures of stock car racing. I mean, a year ago, everybody was ready to hang him. At the end of the season, everybody was in love with him.
And, of course, Joe Gibbs won different Super Bowls with different quarterbacks, so he could win Winston Cup titles with different drivers. Bobby Labonte last year, it could be Tony Stewart this year, and they're both eyeing the Daytona 500. Tony Stewart would love to cash in on that. Had quite an entertaining ride last year, and Bobby Labonte said, hey, this year, I'm not worried about qualifying. Doesn't really matter in the big picture as long as you put up a nice show in the Daytona 500. You'll see that live on Fox a week from Sunday. More Winston Cup. Now, and we're back live. The Winston Cup car is back on the track as the king, Richard Petty, looks on, and Dodge is back as the early morning practice session took a toll on some. Tony Stewart finishing 17th at last year's Daytona 500. Mark Martin very disappointed with his car's performance. Defending Winston Cup champ Bobby Labonte with Joe Gibbs not happy with their morning practice session. We'll see how they do in the afternoon as all eyes are focused and gearing up for Daytona 500. Just 9 days away. You'll see it live on Fox. The men who will call that race join you now with the afternoon practice runs. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy, who takes it upstairs here at Daytona. Mike?
2 hours of practice session this morning and then an hour break. Now, Darrell, as driver, you debriefed the crew. You told them what you think the car is doing. What have you been doing this last hour?
Okay, I went to pickle, onion, lettuce, and tomato on my hamburger. That's the first order of business when you have the break. And then you go in the trailer court, and you'll look at data that you've collected from testing, and you'll look at where you stand right now, speed-wise, car-wise, what changes you want to make. A really quick turnaround sometimes of the car. You might change everything on the car. So that package is junk. That worked before, but it doesn't work now. And go back out and try it again. Some guys are going to just make one more run. They're going to put a little more tape on there. They're going to slick the car up a little bit more. And if it runs really good, this is about qualifying time. Right. So everybody's going to take advantage of that situation as well.
Right. Qualifying is 1 o'clock tomorrow, and you'll have it live on Fox. Larry, what's your crew been doing this last hour?
Well, the big thing that I'm amazed by is the multi-car teams. It's like you take the Penske cars, the Yates cars, the Bill Davis cars. You've got one of their teams at the front of the pack, you've got one at the rear. So I think the big thing that was happening with those multi-car teams is they put their heads together. What are we missing? What are you doing that we're not doing? And once again, everybody was real calm for about an hour and 30 minutes, and they got to running around like their hair was on fire out there drafting. So it's going to be interesting these final 2 hours today.
Well, let's go down to where it's not been very calm this last hour, to Dick Berggren.
Well, Mike, I'm in Bobby Labonte's garage area, and indeed, there has been a lot of conversation here. They are 37th in serial order. That's pretty darn slow and nothing like what they had hoped would happen. But Bobby, cool, just a typical Bobby Labonte, got out of the car, talked to the crew, and said, look, guys, let us not worry about this. Let's not throw away everything we have done. We're going to get this. It's going to be okay. He also reminded them that last year in Talladega, the first Talladega race, Jeff Gordon started 36th and won the event. So all they've done here is change the rear gear. They've done a little bit of work on the carburetor. Bobby isn't even here to take the car out on the racetrack. They surely will do that. They've also talked to Greg Zipadelli. His teammate is 14th quick, so that's quite a bit better. I asked Zippy, what are they doing that Labonte could do? And Zippy just shrugged his shoulders and said, Dick, I don't know. There's nothing I could write down, nothing we could do to help them. Bobby just walked in the garage, getting ready to go out. Everything is calm here. They're looking to go a little faster this afternoon. To Steve.
Hey, Dick, most 20-year-olds come to Daytona Beach for spring break, but this guy, Casey Atwood, is here Oh, to make the Daytona 500. Casey, guys were a little bit slow in the first practice. What do you do to pick up the pace?
I don't know. You know, we're struggling a little bit, but the good thing is that there was 2 Dodges in the top 10, so we know that the car's there. Bill's car was pretty fast, but we're going to work with some gears, work with the attitude of the car a little bit, but I don't know. DW, come down here and give me some pointers or something. I need some help around here. So.
Let's go ahead and create this monster. Your hero growing up, you're from Nashville, Tennessee, was whom?
It's Daryl, and I remember when he won here and he done his little dance. If I win here, I'm going to dance better than you, though. I can tell you that.
Well, that wouldn't be hard to do. Good luck, Casey. Let's check in with Matt Yoakum.
Well, Steve, we spoke earlier in the show about how the 3-car of Dale Earnhardt in winter testing only turned in the 33rd fastest time. They massaged the car, didn't cut up the body too much when they returned to the shop after the test session, but when they returned to Daytona, they really expected times to be a little better this morning in the morning session. Now, what did they do for the second session? Nothing. They cooled down the engine, taped up the grill. They're going to give it a mock qualifying run and see what time they can turn in. Now, just how are the guys handling the pressure of not cracking the top 25 so far? Well, they're smiling, talking. Ron Otto over there talking about the quarter panel. Very calm, very casual atmosphere at this juncture in the 3 garage. And how many times have we seen Dale Earnhardt struggle in practice, but yet come out with a great qualifying lap, possibly even winning the pole? Let's go to Jeannie.
We'll go back with Jeannie Zalasko in a moment. And how many times have we seen Earnhardt be the first car covered up in the garage area and everybody headed for home here in Daytona?
Well, he knows the track. He knows what it takes to get the job done here, and he knows if he's going to be good or not. And you know, he's not worried about qualifying. He's like so many other guys down there. He's going to be in the race, and he also knows that once he gets in that race, based on what he saw at Talladega, starting in the back is not a bad thing. This aero package is actually complements cars coming from the rear to the front. So, you know, there's some guys down there that are going to have a real casual attitude about this whole deal.
Is that demoralizing when you see you're slinging springs and shocks and throwing everything at your car you can, and here's a bunch of guys all covered up and going home?
Oh, at the end of the day, you know, you just kind of look over at them, they look over at you, and you say, you know, I guess they think we're as dumb as we are, you know. They're looking at you like that.
Here's the fastest driver of the day so far. You saw Robbie Gordon now driving for Morgan McClure Racing in the number 4. And here is Ward Burton trying to improve on a top 5 time in the morning 2-hour session. Now tomorrow, qualifying will be at 1 p.m. So right about now is qualifying time.
Saw the same thing I did.
Dad has a good attitude.
Yes, sir. He had that valence dragging that ground.
Yeah,
and, there you see, we hadn't talked about this. You saw how high on the racetrack he's running. Now I think he's on his first lap. And Darrell, what these guys will do is on coming up to speed, and on that first lap, they run that high line, try to get those RPMs wound up, because they're going to run faster the second lap, and that's the lap that counts.
Well, it's all about momentum. But one thing that, again, thinking back to Talladega, I know with our car, we didn't pick up near as much with the aero package and the bigger restrictor plate as we did last year with the smaller plate and a little less drag.
And one thing we'll see, and I'm sure we'll see this a lot tomorrow in qualifying, if a guy runs the low line, he may run a faster first lap than he would if he were running the high line, but he won't pick up as much from lap 1 to lap 2.
No, and it really just comes down to, in the past with the small plate, you had to run the higher line to get momentum. It's all about momentum, about getting that thing wound up. And that's why you change. Larry, you know on those cars, that car right now in qualifying trim, the only thing that'll be the same about that car come the race on Sunday is the body itself. All components, all the pieces that are making that car go, the gears, the transmission, the spindles, the hubs, the brakes. I've even seen guys change seats down here.
Earnhardt, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing about those cars that we're looking at right now that'll be the same come next Sunday.
We've heard a lot about people changing gears. These engines with a 1-inch restrictor plate, they want to be turned about 6,900 RPMs versus if you take the plate off, like in about 2 weeks at Rockingham, these things are turned 88, 8,900. But max power is about 68, 6,900 RPMs, and you will run just a little lower gear here than you heard Sterling Marlin way at the beginning of practice say that he run at Talladega, because because the corners are a little tighter here. You know, it's a little harder to get the RPMs wound.
Yeah, well, it's easy to bog a car down here, like what Ricky Rudd's doing. A comfortable car here is a tight car, a car that you're turning the steering wheel to the left pretty hard all the time. That's comfortable. It goes through those dips and bumps that we see the cars bouncing through, and the driver feels like he has pretty good control of it. But that slows the car down.
Group of cars waiting to go out, and as we discussed this morning, they're waiting to get a clear run at the racetrack so that their time is unaffected by any whiff of a draft from a car a little further up the racetrack from them.
Buddy, that's
down the
a
back
sight.
straightaway.
That's a long straightaway right there. And I tell you, you come off of turn 2, particularly on the last lap, and you've got yourself a small lead maybe, and you think, can I hold them off? Can I hold them off? And of course, we've seen through the years it's pretty hard to do.
Ricky Rudd still in the garage with his Robert Yates team, waiting to come out and make a run. Ken Strader and Ward Burton are among the fastest that have been out on the track thus far. Speeds have been generated right about 181 miles an hour. Fastest is Stacy Compton, 181.9. Of the drivers that have been on the track so far in the second 2 hours of Winston Cup practice.
Every weeknight, it's Totally NASCAR, your exclusive all-access garage pass. 30 minutes of NASCAR news and highlights that put you in gearhead heaven. Totally NASCAR.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway, the second Winston Cup practice session. A lot of changes from last year, including the aerodynamic package of these cars. Look just above the top of the windshield, and you'll see that fin running crossways across the top of the roof, right through the number 1 of Bobby Labonte's number. And that's an important change. Look at the gurney lip on the rear spoiler.
What those things do, they just put a lot of drag in the car, makes the thing run slower down the straightaway, and that's what enabled NASCAR to put a bigger restrictor plate onto the carburetor, Darrell.
Yeah, when we talk about drag, folks, it's just like riding down the road with your foot on the brake. And the more of these things they stick on these race cars, the harder you're pressing down on the brake pedal. That's what drag's all about. It just slows the car down. It's trying to sink it down into the racetrack all the time. And when it does that, then you've got to give the engine more power to get somewhere back close to the speeds that they were capable of running without all that stuff on there.
And if you have less aerodynamic efficiency and more horsepower under the hood, you put more of the control of the race in the hands of the driver.
Well, that plus, now that thing right now is making a huge weight behind it. Because of that fin on the top, it's making a bigger weight behind it, which means that the car can be further back. The car catching him can be further back and feel the effects of the draft. So they've made the hole bigger behind his car by increasing the size of the roof, really, and punching a bigger hole through the air. The lead guy's at a huge disadvantage. He can run 180 mile an hour by himself. A guy coming up on him is going to run 189 or 90 miles an hour. And that was the thing we ran into at Talladega, and why they had to take the plate a little bit smaller. Yeah, here's a cat. He's got trouble.
This is in turn 2. He's running at the bottom of the racetrack, and probably, Darrell, and you'll allude to this. It's terrible over there at the bottom of the racetrack, but you got the car low, you got it soft, so it's bottom, and you just got to drive through it.
Yeah, and what you're seeing that car do is porpoise. When it goes front to rear, front to rear, front to rear, it is killing the speed, and I think we can verify that on the speed chart. He hadn't been all that great, and he needs to balance that car out a little bit better. He needs to balance his front to his rear, because the rear is mandated. 350 springs in the rear with the shock package that NASCAR gives you. You only can work on the front, so he needs to balance his out a little better.
That was John Andretti and Penny Dodge, and here's Mike Skinner.
All that fire and stuff coming out, that's the tailpipes hitting the ground, and anytime anything on the car is hitting the ground, anytime it's bottoming out, as we say, it's slowing it down. It's just like hitting the brakes. It hits the track, slows down. Hits the track, slows down. The trick is to get it to sit up there right on the edge of bottoming out, but not bottoming out.
You're familiar with the Fox Box, an innovation of Fox Sports and NFL coverage with constant time and score. We'll get ready for Generation 2 of the Fox Box, and here it is. Introduced in NASCAR coverage and will be carried over to other Fox sporting events. The box in the upper left showing that we're under green. On the top row, you'll see position, car number, and driver name. On the second row, you'll see a variety of different information. In this case, the fastest time that each driver has turned in all day in seconds. And we can show you seconds, we can show you miles per hour. But when you're down in the garage area, those drivers and crews, there's no speedometers in these cars. They don't know how fast they're going in terms of miles per hour. It's all off the stopwatch.
That's, I mean, for years, you know, we would hear how fast a car run at any racetrack, Daytona, Rockingham, Martinsville, but as a crew chief, as a driver, what meant to us is what that stopwatch had. When we clicked that stopwatch at the start-finish line, that's what you'd go back and you'd compare to what your competitors are doing.
Right, and Ray's on top of the truck, Ray Abraham there, and he's clocking his cars. And, I mean, if we went by miles an hour, we couldn't do segment times. There's so many things we just physically couldn't do. So we break the track up into about 4 pieces, and then we go segment times with seconds, how many seconds you are here, how many seconds you are, and then total number of seconds. There's Bill Elliott, and he looks pretty sharp in his new uniform there. Got that big ram on the back.
First time in his career he's had that red ram instead of a blue oval.
Well, Bill's, you know, Bill has so much knowledge, so much experience. He brings so much to the table, and I think he and Ray will make a great combination.
We'll get used to seeing that ticker across the top of the screen, because all winter long, Gary Hartley and his graphic folks have experimented running it down the left side, the right side, the bottom of the screen, and we've kind of settled on this position here, so you folks at home can keep as up to date as possible on the information as it develops. Leave us free to concentrate on how the race develops, because a lot of the information we used to have to give you orally, you'll now have graphically through the Fox box. Jerry Nadeau, winner of the last Winston Cup race at Atlanta. Doing a little porpoising there through the corner.
Well, the track is through the turns. You see those black spots. Maybe sometime today we can get a camera shot of it. There are black spots on the racetrack, and those are dips in the racetrack. And those dips are there, and those spots are there because of the car bottoming out. And when they hit those spots, they're like little swells in the water. That's why we say they porpoise. They kind of bounce through those little swells. Bump, 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 bump.
And it's kind of a package deal. You're trying to reach a compromise with front shocks, front springs, get the car down, but yet don't bottom out, but keep it pulled down with shocks. And that's what we're constantly working with, because really and truly, that's all NASCAR will allow us to work with is front sway bar, front shocks, front springs.
Now, the reason those areas are black, the sun here in Florida bleaches the asphalt. This track was black when that pavement was new, and now it's a light gray. But as the cars go by and bottom and grind that little bit of asphalt, it gets down to where it's black again. That's the difference in color. Tony Stewart led the league in 6 victories last year. Fell to 6th in the standings on the final day of the season. But as you saw in that graphic, had a few DNFs. There's Steve Park, modified and Busch Series graduate from Long Island.
Okay, so there's Park. He's got his little deal, his goatee or whatever it is. There's Michael. He's got his. Dale Jr.'s got his. What do you think? Some kind of mandatory program?
It's a young guy thing.
If somebody runs good with it, you can bet everybody a have it.
That's it. You're watching Winston Cup practice for the Daytona 500 on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Winston Cup practice. Daytona 500 qualifying live on Fox tomorrow. Now, there is one of a crew chief's more useful tools.
That's something that every team has started paying close attention to. It's measuring not only the wind direction, but the wind speed. And here, as close to the beach and the ocean as we are, it's something you constantly fight. Now, we can fix a lot of things, but we can't fix the wind. But sometimes you have to adapt to it, and there you see the American flag, and that's what we'll always look at as well. But you can't do nothing about the wind. But one thing that we will have to do, and a lot of teams will have to do tomorrow, if the wind's blowing hard, sometimes they got to put a little lower gear because it's more resistance with that wind.
Yeah, I thought that little thing spinning around on top of that truck, I said, now those guys have got a lot more money than I do. Because all I got to do is look out at that big American flag, and I know exactly how fast that flag's sticking straight out. That's about a 20-knot wind.
What they've got and it's really blowing down. That's one of the aggravating things about Daytona. You'll make a change and you'll run slower, and then you'll look out, or you'll go look at your wind measuring device. You'll go, well, it might be because now we got a bad headwind down the backstretch.
Yeah, a driver will say, man, this thing is dying down the straightaway. It just won't run. The engine's no good. In fact, it's just a lot of wind.
Well, our pit reporters have been ever vigilant and constantly on the tips of their toes, looking, waiting for any story to develop. Always aware of everything going on around them. What did Ward put on his hat?
Just right around here.
A peanut. 2 peanuts. Dick Berggren getting a little hazing from Ward Burton and Steve Park. See what Steve Burns is up to.
Well, I'm always amazed at some of the tricks and tips these guys at the garage use to find just a little bit of speed. Jeff Clark is the engine specialist for Dale Earnhardt Jr. just been reading spark plugs, believe it or not. Jeff, tell us how that works.
What we do is we've got this plug light, we call it, and it's basically a magnifying glass with a high-powered optic light, and we use it to check the porcelain on the spark plugs. These champion plugs will tell us whether we've got too much fuel in the combination or too much timing. That's the constant balance. We monitor the weather, and we're always balancing the timing or the lead we put into the engine, and also the fuel by the jets in the carburetor. You follow the weather to make the engine perform at peak performance at all times.
And, oh, by the way, Jeff's wife, Shauna Robinson, will start 8th in the ARCA race this weekend. Nervous?
No, she's in a great car. Michael Cranova's car is a good car with Georgia Pacific, and we're really excited about her run coming up, and she should do very well.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the time. Let's go to Jeannie Zelasco.
Well, you're talking about some tricks, but how about the old-fashioned way? Just watch the guys out there on the track. In the NFL, you can find the assistant coaches high up in the press box, in the booth. How about here at the track, atop the holler, with the computers very much hard at work, measuring about everything you can think of, the speeds on the straightaway and in the turns, comparing their car versus every other car out here on the track. And across the way from me, one of the gauges you guys were talking about, Ray Evernhand, he's checking the wind, and just a handful out here right now atop the haulers, but you better believe if those cars are effective, by Daytona 500 Sunday, we will see a lot more gauges out here. Everybody wants to know how the wind is going to impact them on race day. Dick?
Well, I'm with Bill Elliott. Right now, the tension is just incredible. You ought to see it down here. As soon as my camera comes around, you're going to see the look of tension on Bill Elliott's face and just how intense things are over here. Come on, Goat, let's get a look at him. Bill, how are things going?
We're just trying to sort out and see what we got.
What are you trying to find out? What are you working on with the car?
Like everybody else, you know, seeing how fast we can run when it comes time tomorrow afternoon.
Some of the Dodges are faster than yours. How do you account for that?
You'll have to talk to Ray, because I have no idea.
Okay. Good luck with it. He's really uptight, isn't he, Mike?
Usually is. Boy, last year he came down here with a fast piece and was in a position to win the Daytona 500 for another time. But
and guess what? He will be again, too.
I think so.
I believe that he and Ray will have the combination by Sunday.
Elliott, winner of the 85 and 87 Daytona 500. Here's Kurt Busch. Jack Roush last year had 5 Winston Cup teams. This year closed the 16 team, driven by Kevin LePage, and now has 4. But he's committed to this rookie that he's brought up through the Craftsman Truck Series and now to Winston Cup. Kurt Busch in the 97, one of the rookies here at Daytona.
See a little steam. That's coming off the radiator there. That's his overflow tube out of the when the engine gets hot, they got it taped up, and after a couple laps it'll blow excess water out that corner over there. You might say, well, why are they doing that? They blow it up on the windshield so the driver knows it's getting hot.
Because the driver will never look at the gauge.
I tell them, I don't need no gauge. You're going to run it till it blows up. So what do you need gauges for?
In this practice here, you know, these guys, they'll be putting more and more tape on the front end of this thing, trying to just get that speed faster and faster. And there you see Bobby Labonte trying to find some speed in his car.
Honestly, his car has got a little of that porpoise look to it, and I'm surprised. Because I know they have a very good package for here. But again, Larry, you got to remember something. Got a whole different engine combination. The engine builders tell me they had to change some of the components in the engines because of the bigger plate. They're making more heat in the cylinders, and they had to put some heavier pistons in the engines because of the additional size of the plate, more horsepower. This thing's it's got a lot of drag on it. That motor is working incredibly hard to pull that car around the racetrack right now.
And what I have found amazing is how the combination of the engine, be it the cylinder heads, intake manifold, just with a little plate change, sometimes we saw it last year, fell into some engine builders' hands, and some others kind of lost the handle on it just with this change in the plate size.
Well, I think that's the thing that's you got to be impressed with the Dodges. They have a whole new engine combination. And you know, just like I know, that a restrictor plate engine is kind of like an engine all to itself. It's a special engine. It takes special components, camshafts, manifolds, and everything. And to be able to build an engine, first of all, and get it to run unrestricted, but then to throw the plate on there and get it to run with a plate on it, that took a lot of work.
I think the real heroes of this Dodge comeback is the engine builders. I talked to Terry Elledge, who is Bill Davis's chief engine builder, and he said, Larry, I did not have a major component in my hands that I was comfortable coming to Daytona to run the Daytona 500 with until almost the beginning of this year, less than 2 months ago, and that's a pretty phenomenal feat.
It is.
To be here now and that they're running pretty good. Bill Davis, Ward Burton sitting 6th right now, to know that that just happened in that shorter period.
Yeah, they seem very confident. I'm totally impressed, and I know everybody worked hard, but I got to give Ray most of the credit because nobody else could have spearheaded that deal and got it put together that quickly.
So far, so good. Stacy Compton tops the speed chart. Robbie Gordon next after him, and third fastest Sterling Marlin in this afternoon practice. We'll have more of it from Daytona after this. Here's the defending Daytona 500 champion, Dale Jarrett. His race-winning car from last year sits just about half a mile from here inside Daytona, USA, where he hopes to replace that with new colors come 9 days from now, when you'll see the Daytona 500 on Fox and the whole first half of the NASCAR season on one family of television networks. Tomorrow, Winston Cup practice here on Fox Sports Net at 8:30 Eastern, real early Pacific time. Daytona 500 pole qualifying is on Fox at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and the Goodies Dash 200 airs live on FX tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sunday, NASCAR This Morning kicks off at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Fox Sports Net. Live coverage of the Budweiser Shootout, 2 p.m. on Fox. And every Sunday night during our half of the season, you'll see NASCAR Victory Lane at 9 p.m. here on Fox Sports Net. Kind of wall-to-wall NASCAR.
Oh, man, we have got the sport covered. We got the best people. We got the most information. And we're going to bring it to you in a way like it's never been brought to you before.
There's a little high-tech repair going on, Dick.
Oh, there has been a lot of this, Mike. This is Darrell Wiggins in the Hut Strickland number 90 car. NASCAR has really clamped down on the bodywork, and most of the teams here have had to add some body filler or smooth some areas out, bump some things back, and this is what they do. This garage area right now appears to be a bit more of a body shop than an engine or a chassis shop because, you know, you got to get through the templates, and well, that's what Darrell's doing. High-tech paint job.
Just laying it down pretty nice there.
That's the way I painted my first car right there. Yeah.
Well, you know, we've heard so much about templates, and NASCAR holds close tolerances throughout the year. But when you do get to Daytona, because so much is on the line, they want to kind of set a precedence to the race teams. Maybe the tolerance is held just a little tighter. They look at things just a little bit closer, and you know, you got to do a little grinding. That's what yesterday was all about. You try to get the sticker on the windshield, which indicates you're ready for practice.
Here now, the third fastest car of the afternoon. Jeff Gordon has just put a time up on the board at 181.189 miles per hour, 50.100 seconds. Third quickest.
Yeah, we're seeing the time just a teeny bit slower right now than what we saw in the morning session, which is not uncommon, but also we're seeing a lot of clean runs. Most of these cars running right now are not getting any help. It is right at the time we'll be qualifying tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Here's Earnhardt out. We'll see where he ends up, because he was pretty slow earlier today. He's got it taped up solid. I don't necessarily agree with the attitude of the car, but I mean, he knows more about that than I do. You know, he can see the wind.
But you know, you think back to about 10 or 15 minutes ago when practice got going. Remember seeing Ward Burton's car, how close that Valent was to the ground, and Dale's not quite down there.
No, and he only ran 179 miles an hour, and I got to think that's a pretty good mock qualifying run right there. So they'll probably change engines in that bad boy, wouldn't you think?
I would think so, but as we're looking at the car right there, you see there is no grill opening. And we have heard this all winter long. You tape the grill up solid, you run faster down the straightaway. But because of that roof fin, the one on top of the car, we're hearing that that's messing with the air a little bit. You know, low drag is about air staying attached to the car. And what that fin does, it unattaches it. It causes turbulence. And when you block the front of the car up, it sends more air over the car, and it's hitting right on that roof fin. And I think that's why a lot of cars are actually running slower when they block the front end up solid.
I think you're right. And one thing we've noticed, and there's a 28 car, I will see if he gains, he's pretty slow this morning. One thing we noticed earlier today in IROC practice, we were observing, you and I were, the roof flaps were actually being blown open, which is right behind that fin right there. So there's definitely a war going on around the back of that car now that wasn't there before, and that's what's creating all the drag. That's also what's creating some of this great passing that I think we're going to see.
Well, it's making what we call, it's making the airflow mad. It don't like it.
I might say it's ticking it off.
Ricky Rudd has picked up to 21st fastest from 25th on his first run in this session, 50.122 on the stopwatch, 179.5 miles an hour. And look at the lower left screen of that graphic. The identity of every race team is in the shape, style, and color of its car number. You see it on the side of the cars. You see it on the back windows of fans' pickup trucks. Look at that 32. You're going to see it on Fox. When we show you that car number, it's going to look just like it is on the race car, because that's the identity of that team. That's what they want you to see. We want you to see it too.
I can't say enough about the amount of time, amount of effort, and the amount of thought that has gone into bringing this new telecast, this new TV package to the fan at home. Trying to make it viewer friendly, making it more explainable, if you will, understandable. That's what I'm trying to say in every aspect, whether we're talking technically, visually, or whatever. We're trying to make it easier for the fan at home.
Well, you just saw Ricky Craven. He jumped up to 4th position right there with that last practice run. And I will say he was in a clean run. Looked like he had no help at all.
Rusty Wallace was up in the top 5 this morning. He's currently 7th fastest, 181.010 miles per hour. Stacy Compton still tops the speed chart. Ricky Craven now 2nd quickest. Robbie Gordon, Jeff Gordon, and the 40 car of Sterling Marlin are the 5 quickest, and the 14 has popped up there. Ron Hornaday clicked off a lap that is 6th fastest.
Yeah, AJ must have gotten here. I'm sure he just probably rolled in about lunchtime there and said, "Hey boys, what y'all doing?" Let me tell you how to do this. Matter of fact, let me show you how to do it. I love AJ. He was my hero when I was a kid growing up. He wore red golfing gloves and a red bandana around his neck, and he drove those sprint cars. He was fun to watch.
Robert Presley slow on the back straightaway, coasting in, and that's not a normal roll back to the garage speed after making the run, and we're going to have a caution flag to push him in.
I'm sure something catastrophic happened to that car for it not to be able to coast in.
Red flag is out here at Daytona. We'll resume practice in a moment. Good time for us to take a break. Stacy Compton's Dodge, the Mark Melling team, is the fastest car in this afternoon's practice session. We'll be right back to Daytona International Speedway after this. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Caution flag is out. Took a little pit stop up here in the booth as well. Robert Presley's car rolled to a halt in the back straightaway and is being pushed back to the garage area. Let's go to Steve Burns with his crew chief.
And that is Ryan Pemberton, Mike. Ryan, car's being pushed in. What's wrong with that 77?
We don't know exactly right now. It might have been something, some driveline that we've been very aggressive on lightening up and thinning out and to get it to perform here at Daytona. A lot of this stuff's only built to run a couple laps. We've been practicing an awful lot today, trying to get a little more speed out of it, and then we probably just put too many cycles on 1 or 2 or 3 of the components. So we don't know exactly what happened right yet, but we'll find out here in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Let's go to Jeff Hammond, get a little more in-depth analysis on what's going on here.
Well, what's going on, guys, and what we believe is going on is inside the rear end housing, which is right here, you have the rear gear. Obviously, that's what drives the car. To make speed and reduce the drag coefficient inside there, the guys will trim down the ring gear and pinion, lighten everything up inside the rear gear to make the car have less drag internally inside the rear end housing. They're again trying to make horsepower. You trim it down by putting everything inside the lathe and just start lightening it up. Everybody starts lightening it up. They start trimming down the excess material to make it lighter, so the rotating mass will accelerate the car faster. That's what everything here at Daytona is about, is getting the car up to its maximum speed as fast as possible. One other thing we're getting into is a lot of the guys, one of the best ways to make speed happen here at Daytona is getting the car's attitude right. We keep talking about attitude, attitude, attitude. The one way that they do this is by changing shock and shock absorbers. What I'd like to do here is show you what goes on with the guys when they change the shock, which is located right here. You can see on the A-frame and the frame of the car behind the rear wheel. You put the shock on the car not only to make the car ride better, but also to help change the attitude of the body. By doing this, they're able to take these pistons. As you look here, these two pistons are an example of what guys will change inside the shock. They'll unscrew it and take it apart and change these pistons to make the flow different. When they do this, what happens, if you watch, this right here is a front shock. It's a very aggressive front shock to hold the body down. When you push it down and compress it, which is very hard to do, it's very difficult to push down, it comes out very, very slowly. That's what keeps the car on the ground, keeps the body from coming up off the bumps to make the car go faster. This is another shock. When you can push it in, this gives the car a really good ride, but it doesn't make the car go very fast. So what these guys will be doing today, they'll be changing these pistons internally, trying to find the proper attitude of the car and give it the best ride it can to make it go around this racetrack as fast as possible.
Now, haven't NASCAR now gone to a minimum rebound rate for that shock in some cases for it to come back, or that's something they're still looking at?
Not to my knowledge. On the rear now, they're mandated.
Okay.
When you go through tech, you'll have your 2 rear springs that NASCAR approves. Then you'll have your 2 rear shocks that they give you. So you go through tech without any rear shocks, they give them to you. I don't know what these cats are doing. Look like they're tired.
Well, they were up in line to go back out and practice and make a run. That's Stacy Compton, the fastest driver today, and instead they whipped that car around and started pushing it double time to the garage area.
And you know, it could be where they're maybe not really having a problem. Maybe they've been sitting in line talking to each other on the radio. Maybe they come up with another thought that they want to try.
Yeah, I'd say that's it. More than likely. But you know, those shocks were interesting, wasn't they? I like those that ride good.
Yeah, but you ain't gonna run very fast, Darrell.
I know, but they ride good. I like that.
Them feel good shocks. And you know, shocks, the evolution of shocks just in the last 4 or 5 years. You know, we used to put some Monroe shocks on there, and the only time you changed them is when you crash.
That's right.
Put new ones on them. But what we've learned, with a spring, you can only do so much with it. Softer or stiffer, maybe put a rubber wrap in it that makes it a little stiffer. But with shocks, there's 50 different things you can adjust on one shock.
Matt Yoakum knows what happened to Stacy Compton's car. He saw Stacy climb out there, Matt.
We have Stacy coming out of the garage area. Mike, really nothing major wrong, Stacy. You guys just, with the red flag, wanted to bring the car back in and maybe try some other things?
Yeah, we was afraid we was going to run out of time. The Kodiak Mellon Dodge was, we just weren't sure about one change we made, and we were afraid we were going to run out of time, so we're going to come back, make a few more changes. Hopefully we won't run out of time, get one more run out there, and we'll be okay.
The speed chart is always, you know, small increments here, little things there that always add up to more speed. What else are you guys going to try to maybe try to improve the speed on the 92?
Well, right now we're trying some stuff engine-wise. We're trying some stuff with some exhaust pipes, and we're trying some stuff with some carburetors, some things that Ernie Elliott wanted to try that I think will make us a little bit better. Hopefully we can get a chance to find out.
Well, good luck. Ernie Elliott, always fast when it comes to big super speedways, especially here at Daytona. Mike?
Well, today is tryout day. That's what today is for. Right now, Stacy Compton tops the speed chart. Ricky Craven's gone to second. Robbie Gordon third. We'll update you how they're all running when we come back. Welcome back to Daytona. Here's a look at the afternoon practice speeds. This 1 to 3 p.m. session led by Stacy Compton, Ricky Craven, Robbie and Jeff Gordon, Sterling Marlin, and Ron Hornaday up there, 6th fastest. I'll take you down through the list so you can find your favorite driver.
Jeff Purvis in 16th in James Finch's car. And this is actually the same race team that will be here next week with his Busch team, James Finch's Busch team that P.J. Jones will drive.
Back down through 30th, there's Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt. And Jeff Burton in the high 20s.
I hope I don't have to eat my microphone.
I don't know, buddy. It's not looking good. No, they'll work on it. They'll get it better.
52 drivers are signed in. 44 of them have been on the track during this practice session. Dick Berggren.
Well, one of the things we've been talking about all day long is that with 2-car teams, it seems as if one driver's fast, the other's not. And Ricky Rudd is part of a 2-car team, and his teammate Dale Jarrett is wicked fast, but you're not. How can this be?
Well, that's a good question, Dick. We're asking the same questions. You know, we were here testing, and the 2 team cars are pretty much the same speed, and Dale Jarrett and those guys, they decided they weren't where they needed to be. They went to Talladega and burned the test up down there, and evidently it's really paid off for them. And you know, it's mostly in the body work. You know, just a tweak here in the front fender, a little angle change here, and next thing you know, there's 2 or 3 tenths, and we're still tweaking, looking for it a little bit. We haven't found it yet.
Are you guys running wide open all the way around here at Daytona?
Well, you know, obviously the field is very slow right now with these new rules, and it feels slow. I mean, compared to the
wait, 180 miles an hour, it feels slow?
Well, compared to the days of running 210 around Daytona, it does feel slow. But you know, you get out there and start drafting, and all of a sudden now the pack is running 188, 190 mile an hour. It's not so slow at that time, but right now it definitely feels slow. But you know, it's all relative. Everybody's we have the same set of rules, so we'll take the rules and try to get the best out of it we can. But race day, it won't feel quite so slow.
Got a pretty stiff wind blowing today. Does that have anything to do with the speed?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think speeds are about like we saw in the test. We're running about as fast as we did in the test. A lot of guys have picked up a little bit, but you know, right now you got a crosswind in the backstretch, and that crosswind doesn't seem to hurt you as bad as a direct headwind either on the front straightaway or the backstretch. So again, the crosswind is not really, you don't really even notice it in a race car.
Do you want to tell his teammates, fans at home, Dale Jarrett's teammates, that we have not talked to Dale Jarrett today, and we're not going to talk to him? The reason? DJ's got a sore throat. He's asked, he doesn't want to talk to anybody except his crew chief, so we're going to honor that and just leave him be today. Mike?
Thanks, Dick. There's a look at Jarrett sitting in and waiting to go. One of the quickest this morning in this practice. And there's Ray Evernham, chin in hand, with a 20th and a 27th fastest car so far.
It takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm worried now. I hope I ain't worried too much longer.
You know, just think about, and I don't think we can see what this man has undertaken here.
Oh, no, it's huge.
A new program.
Huge.
Not one new race team, but 2 new race teams. Yeah. A rookie driver, a past champion. I mean, this guy has got the weight of the world. You talk about weight of the world on your shoulders. He's got it.
And oh, by the way, there's 4 other teams that need the technology that he develops.
Yeah, but here's what he told me. He said, look, I've done a great job for Dodge, but I haven't done a very good job for Ray Evernham Motorsports, because he's been so focused on getting all these cars here for this race and having them all be competitive that he probably has not been able to focus on his own stuff as much as he would like to have.
Well, he used to be in charge of 12 cars with IROC. Now he only has 10.
But he only, you know, they only got into the shop, Elliott's shop, January the 1st. They were working out of a small garage. They actually only took over possession of that big shop and where they needed to be January the 1st. So people just can't imagine. I know Larry and I can, because we know what it takes. People cannot imagine what has been accomplished in just a very, very short period of time.
They have done a lot to get to this stage.
Well, it's not just the car. I mean, the cars, yeah, to put a car together, that might be pretty simple. But to do the engine and all the development work in the amount of time that they've done it in, I'm at awe. I really am. I'm totally impressed.
Let's check with Jeff Hammond.
Well, guys, I'm sitting there listening to Ricky Rudd talk a little earlier with Dick Bergman about the wind, and he didn't think it had a big difference as far as the speeds today, but I've noticed that the speeds are down a little bit from this morning's practice. I've seen the wind has gotten up, and I've been in and out several times, and it's gotten a lot warmer. Darrell and Larry both have been here on numerous occasions, and you know that when the weather changes here, if a front comes in, it does have an effect not only to just the cars, but to the engines.
Tomorrow it's expected to be 79 degrees. They were saying thunderstorms all day. They've now amended that to chance of showers.
You know, the humidity is what these engines with the restrictor plate, these things are sensitive, man. I mean, a jet size and an unrestricted motor may not mean a lot, but on a restricted motor it means a lot. We hear a lot about tailpipes. Just all kind of little tuning things that these engine builders and guys do to these engines, trying to trick them into making them go faster.
And, you know, talking about tailpipes, we've heard Jeff Gordon in the first practice, he talked about his team trying tailpipes. And, Darrell, there's certain things that you're trying to obtain there. You know, you may be trying different sizes, little different shapes. But like we saw John Andretti earlier today bottoming out in turn 2, maybe you can put a little smaller tailpipe on it, see if the engine will perform as good, but maybe it won't bottom out as bad.
Exactly. I mean, and these engines, they get so much, it's a balancing tube, really, is what they're using them for. And they could both run out the right side. Both tailpipes can. They both can run out the left side. they can run out one out each side, which is kind of customary. So they just try lots of different things to see, performance-wise, is it helping the engine, and is it making the car go through the air a little bit better, because there is a shape that makes a difference.
The one thing you got to realize also is that what they're looking for is not 10 or 20 horsepower. They're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 horsepower to make their car go faster. That 1 or 2 horsepower that they can pick up could make a difference of 2 or 3 tenths on the watch, and again, could be a big difference when it comes time for the 125s, where you start, and in case you do have a problem, that could be quite large at the end of Thursday.
Well, think about this: 5 horsepower to 100 to 800 horsepower. That isn't a lot. You never know the difference. But 5 horsepower to 400 horsepower, that's a big percentage, and that's what you're looking at.
And I tried to take a poll with the engine guys yesterday in the garage. Of course, none of them come clean with you, but it seems like that for the most part, on average, these motors with a 1-inch restrictor plate making about 450 horsepower. And for every 32nd of an inch that NASCAR changes that plate, whether it's smaller or bigger, and it's not completely linear, but a good rule of thumb is about 20 to 25 horsepower gain or loss with a 30-second change. So that's a bunch. So yeah, like Jeff said, we're not hunting 20 or 25. These guys aren't. If you can make if those engine guys come out of that engine shop and say, we found 2 horsepower.
Yes,
that's
sir.
like the greatest thing. They may go all winter not find that.
That's right. Grind it off in the garage so it doesn't grind off on the asphalt and create that drag. Let's check with Jeannie Zelasco, who's had a little different view of the goings-on here. Jeannie?
Well, we're all talking about men on a mission, right? These are a couple of gentlemen from the Checkered Flag Committee, and you can see right here the checkered flags that they're holding, 2 actually, and their goal this afternoon is to make sure that every driver signs this. 1 goes into the museum, and 1 will go to the Grand Marshal. Now, so far they have everybody but 7, and we won't call people out here. We'll share the love, the guys that have already stepped up and signed, like Dale Earnhardt and Kenny Schrader and Mike Wallace over here. And you'll notice down at the bottom, Richard Petty. And I asked the gentleman, wait a second, this is just supposed to be current active drivers. Wait a second, what about Darrell Waltrip, my buddy? And they said, hey, we don't know where he is. And I think I know where he is, so I'm going to send him your way. Gentlemen?
I was going to say, that'd be the first one in about 30 years I haven't signed. So, and I noticed that Richard took my spot.
We'll get you on there.
Thank you very much. Get that backup car and get on that thing there. I'm going to be in business.
Practice for the Daytona 500 pole qualifying continues on Fox Sports Net right after this.
We've got Chris Myers welcoming you back live at Daytona. John Andretti, part of the Dodge team that has run well this morning. Bill Elliott, twice a winner at the Daytona 500. Of course, in a Dodge this time as the first day of Winston Cup practice continues as they gear up for qualifying tomorrow. You're watching it on Fox Sports Net. 43 hours of coverage leading up to and including the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. Let's toss it upstairs to Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip. Mike?
Chris, a lot of the names on the top of the speed chart are similar to this morning, but here's a new one. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has just clicked off the 4th fastest lap of the afternoon behind Stacy Compton, Ricky Craven, and Robbie Gordon. Jeff Gordon 5th fastest, and on down the list. But Earnhardt Jr. has picked up a bunch. In fact, all 3 of those Dale Earnhardt-owned cars have really improved from this morning.
Yeah, they have. They're all right there, pretty close together, and that's what teamwork's all about.
Let's check with Matt.
Sharing the love, baby.
That's it. Matt?
And Mike, the 32 car of Ricky Craven has steadily moved up the pylon, now 2nd overall. And Ricky, you told me that in the morning session your teammate hit the speed charts very fast, but you guys had a more slower, methodical way to get up the speed charts.
Well, we have, but it was the plan, and the guys came here with a plan to run, make 6 attempts. And that was number 3. We got 2 more before qualifying tomorrow morning. And it's just so much fun, you know. I'm proud to represent Tide and be a part of this team, but I'm really thankful that I crossed paths with Cal and Don Hawk, Mike Beam, Roy McCauley, all these guys. They really got their act together.
It's only practice. Speed Weeks has just started, and Daytona's only 1 race of the 36, but this has to be very good for your confidence starting out Speed Weeks with a new team like this on such a high note.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of work to do, and, you know, the next race is always the most important. But right now it's Daytona, and we've spent a lot of the last month preparing for Daytona. We also had a quality test at Rockingham and Las Vegas.
So as I said earlier, our expectations are pretty high, and the tide forward has been rewarding here so far here in the first couple of hours of practice.
Well, good luck tomorrow in qualifying.
All right, thank you. Hey, and welcome to Fox. Welcome Fox aboard with us. It's going to be an exciting year.
Thanks, buddy. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome. And so far, it's been good. We've been enjoying ourselves. Everybody treating us nice and familiar faces. Jeff Hammond, of course, and Ken Squire, 36 Daytona 500s, and of course, winning the Daytona 500 as crew chief with Darrell Walter. But let's talk about some of the storylines through today. And I know Dale Jarrett said they're going to be taking some digital pictures as they do and comparing things as they get ready. But for Dodge, it's been a good start to things.
It's just like Darrell, I think I said it before. It's phenomenal. It really is. To think that a Dodge could come down here and be one of the fastest cars at the end of the first day of practice, it blows my mind. I mean, they're coming out of nowhere, and especially who's at the top. Stacy Compton is a very good race car driver, but that's basically a team that you would not expect a one-car operation that's been able to go out here and challenge, I guess you might say, the multi-car teams and be successful.
Meanwhile, a little disappointment for the defending Winston Cup champion Bobby Labonte and Joe Gibbs, and also Mark Martin shaking his head, done for the day for now. Ken, what has caught your attention?
Well, I'm impressed particularly about Compton. That car builder and that engine builder in particular is the one that I'm excited about. Here's Ernie Elliott, who's really come out of a one-car team deal. He's built the engine that is in Stacy Compton's car, and let me tell you, that is a workhorse today. Just as impressive, of course, is Craven. Had a third place here in '97. A lot of people forget that. But this guy can still drive a race car. And the other thing that stands out to me right now is the number 4 car. You know, you think about Robbie Gordon, and his career has been sort of checkered as far as Winston Cup racing is concerned. But let's not forget that the engine builder on that car is the man, as far as I'm concerned, Runt Pittman. Now, Runt Pittman has won 3 of the Ernie Irvin. He won with him in '91, '94, and '95, back-to-back. He was successful with Sterling Marlin. And I think this number 4 team is back once again, the Morgan McClure outfit. And they're one to really watch as we get down toward the 500 a week from Sunday. And they could be strong in pole position qualifying tomorrow here on Fox.
All right, 9 days away from the Daytona 500. You will see it and hear it on Fox. Of course, tough to compare, and we will, Jeff, before we wrap up the afternoon session with the morning session as drivers and their crews hope to improve upon that. Right now, let's join Dick Berggren on pit road. Dick?
And I'm with Ronnie Hornaday. He's with a brand new team. He's 7th fast rather this afternoon. Now, traditional wisdom is that it takes a driver, crew chief, team a while to get going. Traditional wisdom doesn't hold up here. You're very, very fast. How has this happened?
Well, I've worked with Felipe Lopez before, and we've done a lot of extensive testing, and Fred Graves is over here. So Fred's kind of reading me and telling Felipe how I'm doing. But, you know, AJ wants some results for this Conseco Pontiac, and we're definitely trying to give it to him. We came down and tested poorly down here. The guys went home and really worked their guts out on the car, and the fab guys back in the shop just really tuning on that body. And then we went back to Talladega, and still not that good. But Richard Childress says, don't worry, we'll have a better motor. And I guess it's that way. I mean, we went out there and ran a couple laps this morning, and Felipe's deal is let's run a couple laps this afternoon, and let's just park it and see what we can do. And it's ended up in the top 10. I'm pretty happy with that.
One of the interesting things about your career is that you have lately worked for some of the great legends in motorsports. Last year, driving the Busch car for Dale Earnhardt, this time for A.J. Foyt. What's it like driving for guys that, I mean, they've got such stature?
Well, it's real easy because they've both been drivers before, so you don't have to explain to them what the car is doing. You can just tell them, and you know, half the time they said you're full of, but you know, it's pretty easy. It just makes my job that much easier. And then at AJ's point, they were down here testing. He said, let me get in the thing. So thank God he didn't. He'd be driving the Daytona 500. But I got to thank him definitely to get here, to even get the opportunity to race the Daytona 500. And I guess it's going to be fun here working with you guys, especially them crazy guys up in the booth. I got to say hi to them. It's going to be a long year listening to them guys all year. So I just can't wait. This year's going to be a lot of fun for me. I've waited a long time to get here, and I'm going to the Daytona 500. It's pretty cool.
There you go. Going to be a lot of fun for us too, Ron.
All right, we're Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. just busted a quick lap. What'd you guys change between morning and afternoon practice?
Yeah, like I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, come on now.
Well, it's really you know, kind of shooting in the dark. We pretty much tried everything we could try when we came here and test. I think everybody does. You bring a couple things that you didn't have time, and we changed a couple springs and some other things that seem to help the car out. And the car's really been good since you're off the trailer, and that's pretty much what you got once you get here. I mean, there's not much help in the next couple of days up to qualifying.
Dale, all day long, we've been talking about the attitude of how these cars sit, get down the track, but you've been very open talking about the attitude of the team, the mental attitude, a positive attitude. Talk about that.
Well, we really struggled with that last year. We won some races and really got a little too confident, I think, and our egos kind of bounced off one another, and we've gathered it back up. It's just, it comes down to me and my cousin Tony Jr. I mean, we've been just like brothers for so many years, and it's hard to work together, but we want to be together, and we're going to stick together and make this work, and hopefully win some championships. It's just going to take a little time.
All right, best of luck. Let's go to Mike.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. presently 4th in this afternoon session. Let's take a look at the times so far from this afternoon. We're just about an hour and 15 minutes into this 2-hour practice session. Stacey Compton's Dodge, Ricky Craven, Robbie Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon. A lot of young guns up there atop the speed charts. Look, for an old guy, you got to go back to Hornaday back there in 7th place.
Yeah, he's an old guy. He's an old California guy. He's a truck driver. Well, pickup truck racer. He is a racer, though. That's one thing you can say about Hornaday.
Well, his dad was a racer, and his son Ronnie's going to run this week.
Yes, sir. He knows what it's all about.
So those are the cars that have been on track in this afternoon. There are 52 cars signed in to the Winston Cup garage. I think 43 ran this morning. Knows who's been out this afternoon. So we'll be back as Winston Cup practice rolls on here for tomorrow's Daytona 500 qualifying. Welcome back to Daytona. The new stars of NASCAR, like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, were racing go-karts or quarter midgets, well, just soon after they could walk. It was different in the 50s and 60s when this man, Dale Jarrett, was growing up. Often young aspiring racers, even someone like Dale who grew up in the sport, didn't get a chance to get behind the wheel that early.
The first time that I got in a race car wasn't until I was 20 years old, but at Hickory Speedway, when I finally got to run that first race on that Saturday night. I think it was in April of 1977. It was a Chevrolet Nova that Andy Petrie and Jimmy Newsom had built, and it wasn't probably the best race car, but it worked for us. I told my dad when I got out, I said, you know, I've done a lot of exciting things in my life, but this is what I said I wanted to do as a kid, and now that I've had that chance, I don't know how I'm going to do it, don't have the money to do it, but this is what I want to do.
And today he does it as the defending champion of the Daytona 500 for Robert Yates. Waited very late in this session to go out and make a run, and when he finally did, found himself 7th on the speed chart.
Yeah, I don't know if he ran both laps or not. It may have been on his first lap. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they are stopped here on pit road. They're measuring obviously the shock travel and the tire buildups. Unusual to stop on pit road and bring the hood up, unless that's Chris there, the guy in the front of the car, is a shock guy. He could be maybe making a shock adjustment with the car here on pit road on the front shocks. Got clickers on the shocks. You can go up or down with the rebound. I'm not sure what he's doing.
I think you got a bunch of things going on. You see the guy that's in the Goodyear uniform at the right front writing on the pad. He's the Goodyear engineer checking the tire temperatures. And you want to do that just as soon as you can coming off the racetrack. Now you see him at the right rear. You see the guy at the left rear of the car. He's the one monitoring the air pressure. And I think that's what they was doing there with the hood up, was measuring the front shock travel as the car come off the racetrack with Dale still sitting in the car.
I think, yeah, you're probably right. They're probably trying to get an accurate reading on what kind of tire pressure do we want to, how much air, additional air do we want to put in the tires to qualify, if any, and what the tire sheets are showing. And certainly shock travel is an important part of chassis setup and what changes you might want to make. I think he's relatively happy with his car being the 8th quickest right now.
Well, Robbie Gordon was quickest this morning, 49.407 seconds, and to the surprise of many, a Dodge. Stacey Compton, who was in the top 5 in the morning, is the quickest of the afternoon. A session so far, 49.476. 47 cars have been out and made at least one run in this afternoon session.
That's not unusual, Mike, to see just the speeds to be a tad slower after the lunch break. I mean, it's hot out there right now. It's probably close to 80 degrees. Humidity's pretty high, and we do have some wind blowing. So that's not unusual for the track temperature to come up and the cars to slow down just a skosh.
We talked a little bit about tires, which are always a big story in Winston Cup racing. Let's go to the Goodyear garage and Jeannie.
Yes, absolutely. This is where the rubber meets the road, and I mean that literally. As you mentioned, the Goodyear garage. Right now, they're getting the tires together for the Busch Series and the Craftsman Truck Series. The Winston Cup wheels, the actual wheels that has arrived on Wednesday. And of course, you have to wait for the NASCAR officials. They come through a complete inspection. They select the tires that will be used, and the guys get 3 sets per team through qualifying. We are talking about $389 plus tax, don't forget the tax, per tire, and $88 plus tax per inner liner. But it's actually good news when you get to spend more cash, because if you make the field, you get 8 to 10 more sets of tires. And that's the good news. And the real good news for Goodyear, 4,500 sets of tires will be sold here throughout the speed weeks. I guess the bad news, of course, for the guys here that have to do all the work, they're getting a rare break. So we'll let them breathe and go back to you, gentlemen.
The tire bill.
Oh, man. I mean, that can, you've been down here testing for 2 days. You've been to Talladega a couple of days. You've been to Rockingham. You've been to Vegas. You've already spent $50,000 on tires. Now, forget all the travel, forget all the other expense. You already spent $50,000 on tires, and you haven't even run a race yet. These horses eat a lot of hay in the off-season.
Look at Ernie Elliott there in the sunglasses. He has a couple of cars that he's powering well up there.
That guy on his left right there is the whiz-bang kid of all. That's Tony Coca-Cola or Scotioli.
I don't know how to say it. I was hoping he was going to say it.
Anyway, he worked for Cale Yarborough. He built the engines for Cale Yarborough. Remember, John Andretti won the 4th of July race here. He has not been known to have one of the most powerful restricted plate programs in the sport. Ernie hired him when Cale's team shut down, and he's been working with Ernie ever since, and you've seen the restrictor plate program turn around.
I just think of Carlos Santana and a Coke.
Yeah.
Tony Santana Cola.
That's it. They call him Soda Pop or something like that.
I'm just going to call him Tony.
I'm sure he'll straighten me out when he sees me. He said, I thought you knew me better than that.
Let's check with Jeff.
Guys, sitting there watching the scoring monitor, it just kind of became very obvious that, can you believe that right now that top cars in practice are single car operations? And the guys that are multi-car operations that you expect to be at the top of the field are basically struggling. You look and you see DEI's got all 3 of their cars in the top 20 right now. But another surprise is the 10 and the 36 car of Kenny Schrader, who we're looking at now. Those guys are in the top 15, and they're stable mates. But the guys that are leading the parade right now are single car operations.
And there's a look at the speed chart from this afternoon practice.
And I'm not going to take anything at all away from Stacy Compton, Ricky Craven, or Robbie Gordon, or their race teams. But if somebody had told you back in October they would be leading the brigade here today, that's not names you would expect to see at the top of the practice charts.
No, not really. Any one of those teams, the 32 teams last year struggled. Of course, Scott Pruitt was a driver, and that when Scott's fault, any first-year team is going to have a tough go of it. So it's good to see that team up there in the top 2 or 3 like that. The 92 car, Compton's car, all through the history of that program has had a good restrictor plate car. It didn't matter who drove the car, particularly Daytona and Talladega. They always seem to have a really nice body on the car, and they always seem to have adequate power. So there's a reason why they're up there. The 4 car, that surprises me, not because that car has not run well in the past, but because it hadn't run well lately. So that's a big turnaround.
But what did you used to tell me? Nobody wins practice.
But it's nice to be up at the top of the chart.
That's right. These things we're looking at here right now is the worst thing that ever happened to racing. They drive you crazy.
But we couldn't race without them.
I can't race without them.
We'll be back to Daytona 500 practice after this. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. You can see that the Rainbow Warriors have been lit on fire. No paint job for Jeff Gordon. New name for the pit crew. Don't know what it'll be, but there's a look at the new look.
It'll be the firemen. What else? I mean, you know, you got to put the fire out, right? I had flames on my car last year, but they didn't burn like those do. Those are neat flames right there. That's right off a 57 Chevy, man. You see that back when we were kids, Larry, remember? Going through the Dairy
I don't
Drive.
remember that, DW. I wasn't around in 57.
Oh, you hound dog. I wondered when I was going to get thrown in. My brother threw me in a little bit earlier.
Down to the garage and Dick Bergeron.
And I'm with Lou Patain, who heads up Dodge's effort here. Lou, in preseason testing, a lot of people were a lot faster than you were, but today the Dodges look good. What's happened?
Well, I think everybody knows that we've been on a 500-day march of development, which did include testing. And since we've been here the last time, we've had another few weeks to work more on the car and at the same time work on some engine development. So this is just a product of that additional time that we've been working on to get us here today. And by no means is today the end of the road. It's a long 10 days here, and a lot can still happen.
A week from Sunday, you have to go 500 miles, both cars and engines. Are the cars and engines up to it?
Yeah, the cars, depending on who wants to rub some rubber on the side or take some paint off, will make it. The engines, we've done pretty well. We've got probably about 8,000 miles behind us now in durability testing, but I think all of us, no matter what brand it is a tough challenge ahead to make 500 miles when you're pushing the engines as far as you do to get at the top of the chart today. We've been very lucky today that we've been able to be real close to the top in the first session of testing, and as it goes right now in this afternoon session, we got one at the top and a few distributed through the field along the way. So it shows that we've got a good foundation, but we've got a lot of work to do yet.
And that they have done a lot of work as well. To Matt.
And Dick, one guy who's done a lot of work on the Dodge engine development program is legendary engine builder Ernie Elliott. Ernie, looking at the speed chart, the Dodges look very, very strong. You must be pleased.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're real happy. But, you know, it's not just a motor program. It's, you know, the guys have been working hard on the cars, and I can't tell you how many bodies they've cut off and put back on. So, you know, it's just not, you know, it's not just the engine side of it. It's the whole program.
But motor-wise, have the times you've seen exceeded your expectations? Where on your goal list for Daytona are you at this juncture?
Well, we feel like we're still a little bit behind. I think that, you know, right now it's a preliminary event. I mean, you know, you've got to wait till tomorrow and see how everything stacks up. And I still don't think you'll know a whole lot till after the 125. So, you know, once we see kind of what shakes down tomorrow and then what shakes down next Thursday, we'll have a better feel for where we're at.
The Dodgers seem to have surprised a lot of people when you consider their test times here in Daytona to what they turned in today.
Well, I think you're working with a lot of very good race teams, and I think that before now, you know, people have not taken these teams very seriously, but, you know, they have, you know, there has been a lot of potential shown there. And, you know, basically I've said for a long time in this sport that, you know, how good you are is basically how hard you work. And these guys have worked, you know, endlessly since test time, and they've just made their cars a lot better.
Well, Ernie, thank you for your time. Good luck.
Thank you.
Legendary engine builder Ernie Elliott. Now, let's go to Steve Burns.
Thanks, Matt. We talked to Kurt Busch about 4.5 hours ago as practice was just about to start. You've had a tough day, struggled a little bit. Tell us about your emotions, what the thought process is.
It just seems as if we've lost a little speed since when we tested here, tried some things on the car after we learned things in the tunnel. Things just aren't playing out as we planned. We've got some things in bags of tricks that we need to put to the car, and we're just running out of time today.
Kurt, do you feel pressure? The guys are relying on you to give them good feedback. Do you feel pressure to do that?
I always put pressure on myself to do that, and got to give them as much feedback to make their jobs easier on them. We're all in this together. We're going to work on this 97 car and make it as best we can.
Well, we'll let you go give that feedback.
Thank you.
Kurt Busch from out of the NASCAR Truck Series.
You know, Mike, listen to all these guys talk, particularly Ernie Elliott, who's certainly a veteran of this sport. It's like listening to guys playing liar's poker. You know, they're all afraid to say where they stand right now because everybody knows they're holding a little something. And Ernie knows there's a little something left in the Dodge, something left in the shed. So everybody's kind of lying to each other, and he's just telling it exactly like it is. We won't know until next Thursday when they get out there for real.
A rookie class of 5. Last year we started with 7 rookie candidates. A lot of talent in that group. We'll see how they fare here as the week goes on at Daytona. And as this practice session rolls on, we'll be right back.
The West Coast swing continues. Neelader.
And welcome back, Fox Sports Net, part of Fox Racing. 9 days for the Daytona 500. welcome back. Fox Sports Net's continuing coverage. Fox Racing, 9 days to go until the Daytona 500. We've got plenty of coverage for you tomorrow. The Winston Cup practice at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific here on Fox Sports Net. We are currently watching, and then on Fox, the Daytona 500 pole qualifying, 1 o'clock Eastern, the Goodies Dash 200. You'll see that live on FX at 4:30 Eastern. Sunday, NASCAR this morning at 10 Eastern on Fox Sports Net. Then the Budweiser Shootout at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific on Fox. You'll see that live. The wrap-up, NASCAR Victory Lane at 9 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports Net. Ken Squire, Jeff Hammond with us as we have been observing the practice session all day for the Winston Cup cars. Ken, I'll start with you on this. So what has stood out or not stood out through the afternoon?
I'll tell you what doesn't stand out. What is not jumping out at us right now is the performance of the Jack Roush cars. Here's the team that won the Daytona 400 back on the 4th of July a year ago. That number 99 is the car that took the checkers here. This car is 32nd at the present time, and that's the best of the Roush team with Mark Martin and Case and all these new guys that are running with the team. And my question to Jeff Hammond is, hey, come on, what's going on here?
You used to work for Roush.
Wait a minute, where's the gun, boy? Before I make this comment. It's not unusual sometimes for these guys to come down here thinking they're better than what they are. They've probably done some work up in the engine room, and it's not quite worked out like they wanted to. So therefore, if you look, they're not quite where they need to be as far as the time sheet's concerned. But I do know this much about Jack Roush and all the guys in the engine room. They're back there right now in Michigan and whether it's Mooresville, North Carolina, and they're getting phone calls about, hey, what we thought would run is not running. You're going to have to make a change. We know that Mark Martin's putting in a different combination for tomorrow morning. I also heard that the 99 car will be doing this. So there are going to be some changes made, at least in 2 of the rides, to try to get better.
So what you're saying is that by tomorrow morning, we may see a new gun out here in those Roush cars.
Yes, I believe that. I believe also that if there's a situation going on where, let's say, the Kenseth car or the Busch car doesn't pick up and there's only like 1 or 2 engines to go between Mark Martin and maybe Jeff Burton, those cars will get those engines after qualifying on Saturday for qualifying on Monday.
On Monday. And that second round of qualifying, which is unique to Daytona this year. This is the only place where there'll be 2 rounds of qualifying because of the 125-mile races, which we'll be seeing live. This is the first time that's ever happened, Chris. I think that's going to be some of the most spectacular part of the entire 9 days remaining, is that moment when we get down to those 125s. As Jeff can tell you, you talk about racing, there is nothing like those 125s that we'll be seeing on Thursday live.
And the qualifying tomorrow, which we will broadcast, and Matt Kenseth sat here with us earlier and said we have a lot of work to do. They are very, very surprised and disappointed. All right, thank you, gentlemen, and we appreciate your comments. Now, Jeannie Zelasco has been very busy wandering around in a number of places and finds herself in an interesting one right now. Jeannie?
Yes, Chris, there is no place like home, well, as close as you can get when you spend 38 weekends on the road. We are in Motor Coach City. This is where the drivers live during the race. You'll notice the motorhome, all the comforts of home. I mean, very comfortable leather chairs, VCR, DVD players, great bedroom, bathroom, everything that you could want at home. And the best part is most of the families will stay right in here so they don't have to go to a hotel. So when the drivers are not on the track or they're not in the garage, they can spend as much time as possible with their families. There's even playgrounds for most of the children at most of the tracks, daycare centers, and this can all be yours pretty much for just over $500,000, or if you're as lucky as I am. I just kind of wandered into this one. It was open. I just have to get that big DW scratched off the side, and it'll be mine.
Jeannie, the fellow who owns that coach is standing next to me. He's got the keys in his pocket. What'd you break to get in there?
I don't know. Possession is 9/10 of the law, and I'm here. And can I have an apple, please?
Yes, you may have. You may have an apple. And by the way, I was sitting here watching this. I said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all these coaches must look the same because that looks exactly like mine.
Yeah, you need some security, sir.
Thank you very much. Smitty's not doing a very good job, or Van won. I'm not sure who, but make yourself at home. There's plenty of there's drinks in the refrigerator, and yeah, we got Fox right there on the screen. David Hill will be along later on. He'll visit with you, too.
DW, I think she's already made herself at home, looks like.
I think so.
Moved right in.
Well, from the penthouse, let's go across town and pick up the action with Dick Berggren.
The man who races in wingtip shoes in a little less than a month will celebrate his 60th birthday. Dave Marcus trying to qualify for the Daytona 500 for the 33rd time. What brings you back here year after year after year?
I guess just the love of the sport. I mean, I really enjoy racing. It's been my whole life, and I just love it. We're back here again.
Tell me about your chances to make the show. You got a good motor, got a good car. What's the story?
Well, we have a Richard Childress engine. We have a body on the car that they helped with over at the Richard Childress shops. It's a Laughlin chassis. We did well here in practice, so we're pretty enthused about it. This morning's practice, I think we ended up about 21st or 22nd overall, and this afternoon, you know, we're doing like everyone, looking for more, changing gears and just trying all those little things, different jets in the carburetor, and trying to get a couple more tenths.
And I'll guarantee you that when this guy makes the field for the Daytona 500, every face in this garage has a smile on it. Yep. Mike?
And he talked about it being a Richard Childress car. They actually had that car in the wind tunnel this winter, which was the first time Dave's had a car in a wind tunnel in years. And when you know your speed weeks is getting started bad, when they unloaded this car yesterday, his backup car had come loose and basically beat the whole nose off of it. So all of Richard Childress guys jumped in, helped him get the nose fixed to get through inspection.
Well, what you're looking at right there, folks, is about 30-odd years of experience. That man has got some experience, and he shares it with everybody in the garage. He drives the IROC cars. He does setup for the guys on the IROC cars. And he's a great driver and a great test driver, and he puts a lot of effort into it. I hope he makes the field.
And he often tests this car for Childress.
You got
Marcus is 25th fastest on the chart and holds the record with 32 consecutive Daytona 500 starts before missing the show last year. We'll be back to Daytona right after this. Well, it's getting late in the game, folks. Here at Daytona, you see a number of cars all going out on track at once to try to post a time and get on the board before they wind down the time on this practice session.
That's what we were just talking about. That crew chief's up on that truck saying, how many cars ahead of you? We got to get a run in.
No. The crew chief's saying, wait till I tell you to go, and the driver's saying, I got to go.
I'm going now. I got to go. I will.
Well, we'll see some wind-aided times now.
Yeah, we will. And not only that, but, you know, it's been quiet and calm all day, and hadn't been a lot of excitement. I haven't even seen a car get hardly smoke a tire. Have you?
It's been pretty quiet, you know, other than the one incident with Robert Presley having to stop on the backstretch. It's been pretty trouble-free here with about 5 or 6 minutes to go in this practice session.
Yep. Brett Bodine, 25th quickest, and a second ago we saw Jeremy Mayfield, who is 40th on the chart. So everybody trying to bank one here before the session ends.
Once again, this is a Robert Yates racing engine in Brett Bodine. Robert Yates has got engines in about a third of the field, Darrell. In the 88 and the 28 is 2 cars. He's got it in Ricky Craven, Andy Houston, Jimmy Spencer, Todd Bodine, Mike Wallace, and Brett Bodine. So he's pretty much going to have a good day on Sunday, you would think.
Cha-ching! And you know what? There's plenty more where those came from.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy Mayfield, 40th fastest at 178.7 miles per hour on his last run. And here's Michael Waltrip, who is 12th, make that 13th quickest at 180.9 miles an hour. Getting a little tow from Brett Bodine.
Yeah.
No, that should kick him up a number or 2.
Yeah, well, one of them's just starting and the other one's just finishing. So that's what you call in hot pursuit right there. If Brett could catch him, he might just let him know he didn't appreciate him pulling out in his run. And Michael's looking back and say, raw. Think he's mad?
I think Brett's a little bit
easy. He's after him. He said, I'm going to bump you. He might just do it, too. Of course, he might, after a while, he get to laughing about it after he gets over being mad. So, well, let's hook up and run us a real fast lap.
Brett probably needs to peek at his water temperature gauge right here because, you know, he's tucked up behind that car. He probably don't have much opening to begin with, and I'd say he could be running a little bit warm on water temperature.
Let's see what these two cats run together. I'm sure Michael's afraid to even look back.
He's probably going to have a fist shaking at him.
Oh, yeah. 182, yeah.
Michael moves up to 6th fastest.
Yeah, and Brett goes to the top.
Yeah, Brett just ran the fastest lap of the day.
Yeah.
So we'll have to put an asterisk next to that one.
So now, see, now Brett's not mad anymore.
No,
he's happy now.
Ooh, a lot of smoke in turn 1. A lot of that could just be a little bit of steam.
Yeah, I think that's all it was. I think it's out of that 11 car. Oh, there's cars everywhere.
Joe Nemechek out trying to make a run here as everybody's trying to get a final time on the board in the last few minutes of Winston Cup practice. We'll be back to close it out right after this. Welcome back to Daytona. Robbie Gordon, who had the fastest time of the morning session, is on the speedway right now, trying to better that. And a number of drivers have gone out and paired up in tandem after they saw what happened to Michael Waltrip and Brett Bodine, who now have the fastest laps of the day because they ran them nose to tail.
Yeah, they actually, it wasn't intentional. They ended up running in, getting together on that lap, and they just drafted each other around, and of course they posted the top speeds of the day. So that's a little deceiving, but probably the real deal's on down below them.
Now Stacy Compton again rolled their car out, decided to make a run, and with the minutes winding down, they've said, well, we're going to put it away again.
They made a smart move. They see all these cars up there, out there running 2 and 3 wide. Why waste the effort? They've got the fastest race car here during this practice session. Why waste time going out there just trying to run with somebody? You're not learning anything.
Right.
Fastest time from this afternoon session, you see Michael Waltrip and Brett Bodine, but as we've explained, those times need an asterisk because they were drafting together. Stacy Compton is the fastest driver on his own. As you look down through some of the 40-plus cars that have run in this afternoon 2-hour session. The only car that has not been on the speedway today, Dwayne Leake in the backup Dave Marcus car, numbered 72. Dave Marcus just came past with the 44 of Buckshot Jones drafting along. They're 21st and 22nd fastest, picking up a bit. So winding down to the final minutes of today's Winston Cup practice. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Fox Sports Net's continuing live coverage of Speed Weeks and the Daytona 500 practice, the first Winston Cup practice for the cars as they're just about completing the afternoon session. Robbie Gordon with the fastest time earlier in the day. Of course, Stacy Compton put up some good numbers. Michael Waltrip racing well in the afternoon, practicing well, I should say. But Robbie Gordon with the best of practice numbers as we get ready for qualifying tomorrow, which you will see on Fox and Fox Sports Net. Jeff, let's get some thoughts on what you have seen today and how that will affect qualifying for tomorrow.
Well, sitting there watching the monitor as well as watching the guys on the track, I like what I'm seeing from Robbie Gordon. I know that Runt Pittman and that number 4 car are very tough here at Daytona. I also like the 88 and the 24 for a shot at the pole also. Those guys, they know how to get around Daytona. They know how to win here. They know how to sit cars on the pole. They're sitting there at the top of the leaderboard. They've had clean runs. They're going to be cars you have to watch as they go through the room of doom and how they come out the other side. They could be the guys that are going to be on the front row after tomorrow.
Ken, what should we look for tomorrow?
Well, I'm impressed with these runners that we haven't heard too much about. You know, in the 90s, we had 3 folks come along that were big surprises and take the pole. In 93, it was Kyle. In 94, it was Loy Allen Jr. And then Mike Skinner in 97. And I think the real question is, do these teams that have Stacy Compton and Robbie Gordon or Ricky Craven have enough to pull it off tomorrow? But somehow I kind of go along with my friend here on the right. Those big dogs are ready to eat, and I wouldn't be surprised if that number 88 had a big bark before tomorrow was over. That Dale Jarrett back there 3rd or 4th all day. And the other big question is what about Roush? What more can they bring out tomorrow? Because this was not a good performance.
All right, whether they were sandbagging or not, Dodge put up some impressive numbers, and they're happy about that. Let's go back upstairs with Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip, and Mike Joy.
Well, wherever Mark Melling and Stacy Compton are partying tonight, I want to be there. What they have accomplished in such a short time is just phenomenal. They're second fastest today, second fastest this morning, second fastest by themselves this afternoon. A lot to be proud of there.
Oh, I agree. And folks, something I want to point out to you is what we have here, what we can offer you for today, tomorrow, and the future is we are looking in everybody's playbook. We're like old coaches, and we've been with a lot of different teams. I'm a driver that's been with a lot of different teams. He's a crew chief's been with some different teams. We can look in every playbook. We know what's going through these guys' minds. We know what their thought process is. We know what's got to be done to get the job done for tomorrow. And we're going to bring that all to you. And I hope you're enjoying it, because I'm having a ball doing it myself.
Oh, I'm having a great time, too, you know. And to me, Darrell, there's a lot of stories unfolded today. Obviously, Dodge, Robbie Gordon being the fastest. But to me, and I can't wait to get down there to find out what's going on, is the difference between the 2 teams on multi-car teams, the Yates teams, the Penske teams, Bill Davis's, Ganassi's. You've got one of their cars at the top of the speed chart. You got one at the bottom, and I've never seen that here before like that.
I've seen it all my career here. Every time I end up here, I'm in the slow one.
Let's get down there and find out. Dick Berggren.
Well, it has been an afternoon of surprise, and that is for sure. Stacy Compton with the Dodge, the fastest unaided lap here this afternoon. And how about Ricky Craven in this car, proving that he is back after his injuries. And Robbie Gordon cutting such quick laps. New driver, new crew chief, old team. Let's go to Steve Burns.
Dick, we've talked about the disappointment in the Roush stable. They've already changed the motor in Mark Martin's car. Thing about it, there's not much time left. Gates open at 7 a.m. They practice for an hour at 8:40. 1 o'clock they qualify. Matt Yoakum.
Steve, practice doesn't pay any points or prize money, but it sure lets you sleep a little easier at night, especially if your time was legit. I think the sleeper on pole day could actually be the 24 car of Jeff Gordon. They quietly made it into the top 5 before a lot of guys at the end of the session decided to put up some big numbers. And remember, it's an odd year. 01, Gordon has won the 500 in 97, 99. Maybe this could be his year as well. Jeannie?
I thought Kurt Busch would be the rookie to watch here today, but how about the jobs done by Andy Houston and Ron Hornaday? Yes, Hornaday is considered a rookie in status, but the 42-year-old is anything but behind the wheel. Felipe Lopez, his crew chief, told me that's what they want to see from him, 2 or 3 tenths extra per lap because of his veteran experience. They also feel like they can duplicate everything that they did out here on the track today because they weren't fooling around, and the time they put up was single car, so they're feeling very confident. Mike?
Well, thanks, Jeannie, and quite a day here for Fox as we launch our coverage. You'll be seeing this all throughout the first half of the NASCAR season on Fox, on FX, and here on Fox Sports Net beginning bright and early tomorrow morning. ARCA practice going on right now. We'll have that race for you on Fox Sports Net. Kirk Shelmerdine and Ricky Hendrick will share the front row for the ARCA REMAX Series 200 here this weekend. A great day of Winston Cup practice to kick us off. Let's go down trackside to Chris Myers.
Thanks, Mike Joy. And after the first day of Winston Cup practice, Robbie Gordon, the best time today. Dodge with a big day. Don't forget, you can catch more of the Winston Cup practices tomorrow morning on Fox Sports Net. Then Fox Network, our mother station, kicks off its racing coverage. Fox Racing with a Bud Pole qualifying for the Daytona 500. And then finally, FX will have live coverage of the Goodies Dash. And you'll see it all. 43 hours of coverage all the way up to the 43rd running of the Daytona 500. I'm Chris Myers, and for our entire crew, thanks for being with us. Have a safe drive home. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.